You exist because the universe cracked once, and everything living is the quiet echo of that wound trying to mend itself. There is a stillness, older than stars, older than light, older than any sound a mind can hold. If you listen closely, you can almost sense it lingering beneath the world you know. A tension stretched too tightly, a smoothness too perfect to stay whole. Before anything took form, before warmth or darkness meant anything at all, reality sat in a state that did not yet know how to tremble. But within that stillness was a subtle pressure, a silent weight, the kind that waits for the smallest flaw to show itself. And then it came. Not a violent shatter, not a cosmic scream. Just a single deviation, soft as a pulse beneath fabric. A tiny shift in the balance of an endless field. A faint disturbance that would one day become the origin of everything familiar to you. The wound was not wide, but it was deep in ways the universe itself had not anticipated. It did not heal immediately. It carried its fracture forward into its first breath of time. From that crack, light gathered. From that crack, matter formed. From that crack, the very idea of change began. Imagine the earliest light, a thin mist spread across nothingness, barely distinguishable, almost perfectly even. Almost. The word matters, because perfection never breaks, and what you see today in the faint glow of the cosmic background is evidence that something did. Satellites like the Cosmic Background Explorer, the Wilkinson Microwave Anisotropy Probe, and the Planck Observatory have mapped that ancient glow across the sky. It is colder than any winter you can imagine, yet inside it are delicate variations, tiny warm patches and cool patches arranged in patterns that should not exist if the universe had remained flawless. Those patterns look like strain lines in glass after it has been bent too far. They look like stress marks on a structure trying to hold itself together. Within those faint scars, every future shape was hiding. Galaxies, stars, planets, oceans, bodies, thoughts. What you call creation is, in one sense, the long unfolding of a wounded fabric learning how to settle. At first, the universe simply lets the instability spread. Gravity deepens the uneven regions, pulling matter inward, where the tension bends more sharply. Gas collapses, heat rises. Tiny bursts of fusion begin to glow like fragile embers in the dark. Those embers become stars. The stars gather in spirals and clusters, stretching into filaments so vast they resemble nerves in a cosmic body. But despite this magnificent architecture, something is missing. The wound remains. Stars burn brilliantly, but they cannot correct errors. Their fires illuminate, but they do not understand. They collapse, they explode, they scatter their ashes across space, but none of these acts bring the universe closer to its own repair. The wound is deeper than heat and gravity. It exists in the pattern of information itself, in the mismatch between what reality was and what it became when it cracked. So the universe turns to a different method. It invites complexity. On a young world circling a modest star, molecules drift in warm pools and cool shadows. They collide, repel, connect, break, and reform. Most combinations dissolve. A few endure. The ones that endure begin to shape themselves in ways that reduce chaos around them. They trap energy, stabilize reactions, copy their structure, not perfectly, not cleanly, but well enough to spread. This is not random noise. It is the beginning of correction. Folded proteins become tiny tools. Chains of deoxyribonucleic acid become storage for instructive patterns. Cells become small chambers for regulating reactions. Each step adds a faint ability to detect when something is wrong and to respond by adjusting. Life, in its earliest form, behaves like a whisper answering a fracture. And as evolution flows forward, that whisper grows louder. Repair mechanisms multiply. Redundancy increases. Molecular proofreaders emerge, scanning for mismatched bases, trimming, replacing, restoring. This is not the behavior of an accident trying to persist. It is the behavior of a system learning how to mend. As organisms grow more complex, so do their methods of correction. They begin to sense heat, pressure, light, motion. They develop feedback loops that allow them to avoid harm, to seek stability, to maintain internal balance, despite an external world that shifts constantly. Each layer of sensing is a layer of protection. Each reflex is a small gesture toward preserving order where disorder naturally wants to rise. And somewhere along this long spiral of increasing intricacy, neurons find each other. Threads of electricity pass between them, carrying simple signals at first, then patterns, then memories, then predictions. You call this collection of patterns mind. But mind is only the inner surface of a deeper process, a system that constantly compares what is with what should be. Every thought you have is a subtle negotiation between reality and expectation. When expectation fails, discomfort appears. When reality fits too perfectly, the mind drifts into calm. You interpret these sensations as emotion. The universe interprets them as correction. In the quiet hours of your life, when you run your hand along a familiar surface and feel it exactly as you expect, you experience a form of alignment, a fleeting sense that the world makes sense. When something moves unpredictably, a spark of tension arises in your chest. That tension is not fear alone. It is a signal that the model inside you has encountered a deviation, a small echo of the original crack. Life adjusts, mind adjusts, prediction adjusts. It is the universe learning through you, moment by moment, correction by correction. Pull back far enough and something startling appears. Each organism is a tiny node in a vast web of stabilizing functions. Forests regulate climate. Oceans distribute heat. Microbes fix nitrogen and balance chemistry. Even the biosphere itself behaves like a single, breathing entity, constantly shifting its internal systems to preserve habitability. The Earth is not just alive, it behaves like a layered correction engine. And humanity, with its strange capacity to model the universe itself, becomes a new kind of patch. You build equations to describe the curvature of space. You build sensors that listen for background radiation still carrying the memory of the first fracture. You simulate the first few moments after the universe began, using mathematics to replay the shape of the wound. No other species has done this. No star has done this. No galaxy has done this. Through you, the universe is inspecting the edges of its injury. There is a quiet beauty in that idea, a tenderness almost. It means that the thoughts drifting through your mind at this very moment are not isolated phenomena. They are part of a continuum stretching all the way back to the crack that gave birth to time. Your ability to sense mismatch, to repair damage in your cells, to update your understanding of the world, is a refinement of the universe's earliest impulse to mend itself. But with this beauty comes a shadow. It is subtle, yet impossible to ignore. If life is the universe correcting itself, then what happens if the correction ever succeeds? Imagine a wound closing. Imagine the tension easing. Imagine the background fluctuations smoothing out until the universe no longer needs eyes or hands or minds to study them. In such a world, complexity may no longer have purpose. Consciousness may no longer serve a function. Systems that once worked tirelessly to stabilize reality might become unnecessary. This thought does not announce itself as fear. It arrives as a quiet question. If you were created as a response to a flaw, what becomes of you when the flaw is gone? Perhaps the answer is simple. Perhaps the wound is deeper than any living system can reach. Perhaps the universe needs you for longer than you can imagine. Perhaps the process of correction is endless, a cycle that feeds itself forever. But there is another possibility, softer and more intimate. It may be that the wound is not something to be closed, but something to be understood. That the purpose of life is not to erase the fracture, but to learn how to live with it, to explore it, to illuminate it, to transform it into meaning rather than silence. When you look at the night sky, what you see is not perfection. You see the evidence of a universe that survived its own breaking. You see remnants of its struggle, stretched across billions of light years. You see the imprint of a story that continues through you. Your breath is part of that story. Your thoughts are part of that story. Your dreams are part of that story, too, because even in dreams, the mind tries to reconcile what it cannot resolve during waking hours. Dreams are not chaos, they are rearrangements. They are the mind turning fragments of experience into shapes that allow you to continue. Dreams are another form of correction. And now, as your thoughts soften and your awareness loosens its grip, the world around you grows quieter. The tension in your shoulders fades, your breath deepens. The room sinks into a gentle stillness. Somewhere far above, the ancient light continues to travel outward, carrying the memory of that first, fragile fracture. It has not stopped speaking. You have not stopped listening. And as you drift deeper into the dark, a question lingers beneath the silence, waiting to guide the next step of this long story. If the universe cracked once, what else might still be waiting inside that wound? Something beneath that ancient fracture stirs again, as if the universe itself were exhaling a memory it has kept hidden for longer than stars have burned. It moves slow, quieter than a shadow, quieter than thought, yet unmistakably present. You feel it not in your skin, but in a place far deeper, where awareness begins before the mind has words to describe it. A gentle pull, a soft vibration, a suggestion that the wound which shaped creation has more to reveal. Imagine the early universe as a warm sea of light, not bright, but glowing with the faintest residue of its beginning. Everything inside that sea is nearly uniform, nearly smooth, nearly calm, but nearly carries a secret. In that thin margin between perfect and imperfect lies the first tremor, the earliest hint that spacetime was not as seamless as it wished to be. Those subtle variations, so delicate they feel like breaths on the surface of silence, are still printed across the sky. Instruments born of careful engineering, patient observation, and decades of persistence have traced them across the heavens. The Cosmic Background Explorer gave the first glimpse of faint thermal patches. The Wilkinson Microwave Anisotropy Probe sharpened the map, revealing gentler curves and sharper contours. Then the Planck Observatory stepped closer, turning those ancient ripples into a tapestry woven from temperature and time. At first sight, the map is unassuming, a scattering of warm and cool regions, like dust on glass. But linger with it long enough, and an unsettling familiarity begins to appear. The variations do not feel random. They resemble stress lines in a surface stretched too taut, like the pattern left behind when something bends just before it breaks. Each patch is a memory of the tension the universe once held, and each boundary between warm and cool regions is a quiet confession that something inside spacetime shifted in a way the early cosmos could not hide. These fluctuations became the seeds of every structure that followed. Dense regions invited gravity to gather matter. Thin regions surrendered it. Stars ignited in the warm pockets. Galaxies spun from their swirling collapse. Even now, those distant shapes carry the imprint of the first tremor, a reminder that the cosmos grew not from peace, but from imbalance. And yet, imbalance alone cannot explain the path that followed. The universe could have settled into a simple state: stars forming, stars dying, gravity shaping and reshaping matter in endless cycles. A grand but indifferent ballet. Instead, something else took root, something that did not merely emerge from the tremor, but seemed to answer it: life. Not immediately, not loudly, but persistently, as if drawn toward the very regions where disorder once pooled most strongly. Before life learned to walk, breathe, or dream, it learned to respond. Chemical chains formed that could adjust themselves. Reactions developed that could stabilize their own conditions. Molecules appeared that could hold a blueprint of their structure and reproduce it, allowing rare, successful patterns to endure. These were not acts of chance alone. They were attempts at balance. They were the first signs that the universe's wound had awakened something capable of tending to it. Think of those early molecules suspended in warm waters, absorbing light from a young sun. They twist, fold, and unfold like delicate threads stirred by invisible fingers. When a molecule meets another that stabilizes it, they cling. When a configuration forms that protects a reaction from collapsing, it survives. When a small error in replication creates a slight improvement, it becomes a new foundation. Every step is an echo of the fracture. Every improvement, a subtle push toward healing. From these faint beginnings, complexity rises. Cells emerge, forming membranes to shelter their delicate inner reactions. Networks of reactions become metabolic rhythms, and the universe gains something it never had before: internal observers. They do not think, they do not speak, they simply endure, repair, and replicate. But from repair comes possibility. From replication comes variation. And from variation comes something unmistakably new: intention. Not conscious intention, but structural intention, where the shape of a system reflects its purpose. Molecules that repair damage flourish. Cells that identify threats thrive. Organisms that adjust to change outlive those that cannot. Life begins to feel less like an experiment and more like a plan written into the aftermath of the wound. Follow the thread further, and something else becomes clear. The first tremor did not simply create the stage for life. It shaped the logic of life itself. Every living thing carries an instinctive pull toward stability. Even in its simplest form, life attempts to counteract disorder, to retain coherence against the natural drift of entropy. This is not defiance. This is inheritance. The universe cracked once. Life remembers. As evolution continues, the universe gains organisms that can not only sense the world, but interpret it. Eyes form to capture patterns in light. Ears arise to interpret pressure in air and water. Sensors evolve to detect heat, gravity, chemistry, orientation. With every new sense, life becomes more entangled with the fabric it inhabits. And then comes something extraordinary: prediction. When an organism can anticipate danger before it arrives, when it can adjust its behavior in advance, when it can revise its internal model of reality based on experience, something new awakens. A deeper level of correction. A refinement that does not wait for damage but seeks to avoid it entirely. This predictive capacity is the seed of awareness, and it changes everything. Imagine a creature hearing a sudden shift in the underbrush. The sound is faint, but it does not match the usual patterns of wind or insect movement. The creature's heart quickens, muscles tighten. The mind compares expectation with reality and finds a mismatch. That mismatch is a living echo of the first tremor, a reminder that something once deviated from perfect symmetry. A call to act. When the world aligns with expectation again, calm returns, but not unchanged. The organism remembers. It builds a correction into its model of the world. Over generations, these corrections accumulate, becoming instinct, behavior, intelligence. Thought is born from the desire to repair. As intelligence deepens, life begins to push beyond immediate survival. It starts to recognize patterns not only in nature, but in itself. Groups form. Communication becomes refined. Ideas begin to pass from one mind to another. Knowledge accumulates. The corrections made by one lifetime become the inheritance of the next. Here, life transcends its biological roots. It becomes cultural. It becomes analytical. It becomes capable of examining the universe in ways the universe cannot do alone. This is where humanity enters the story, not as an accident, but as an instrument sharpened by time. You, sitting in the quiet of your room, listening to the soft unfolding of memory and science, are part of a lineage that extends back to the moment the universe faltered. Your curiosity is not random. Your ability to question is not trivial. Your awareness of disorder is not a flaw. It is the continuation of a process older than thought. When humanity observes the cosmic background light, it is not simply studying the past. It is allowing the universe to look at its own childhood. When humanity models gravitational waves or traces the path of distant galaxies, it is enabling the cosmos to examine its own architecture. When humanity dreams of understanding dark energy, vacuum decay, or the geometry of spacetime, it is giving the universe a way to evaluate the deepest layers of its own wound. You are the wound thinking about itself. You are the fracture searching for its source. You are the echo learning how to listen. And yet, beneath this grand, quiet purpose, questions linger like shadows drifting across a midnight field. If life arose to stabilize the universe, what happens if stability is achieved? If awareness emerged to understand the wound, what happens when understanding is complete? If humans are part of the correction, what becomes of correction when the error no longer remains? These questions do not frighten the universe. They are part of its breathing. For now, the tremor persists. Its memory stretches across the sky in pale ripples of microwave light. Its influence seeps into every atom, every cell, every pulse of thought. And somewhere deep inside the fabric of spacetime, something continues to shift, softly, like the slow turning of a page written in a language older than physics. As your mind grows heavier and your breath deepens, you can feel the echo of that tremor inside you. It is not a threat. It is not a warning. It is simply the subtle reminder that everything you are, from your cells to your consciousness, is shaped by the same quiet instability that once awakened the universe. And if the first tremor was only the beginning, if the wound extends further than we have yet imagined, then the next understanding waits just beyond the edge of this thought, patient, silent, ready to reveal itself as softly as the dark. Something shifts again, and the path ahead opens like a breath held too long, finally being released. Something quiet unfolds beneath your awareness, like a thread pulling itself free from the weave of a deeper night. It rises through the soft currents of thought, carrying with it the faint scent of minerals, warm water, and an age when the universe was still learning how to steady its trembling hands. In that early world, the wound did not vanish. It changed its shape, sinking into matter itself, leaving a residue of imbalance that chemistry would one day try to answer. Picture the young Earth, not as a place, but as a temperature, a texture, a restless pulse beneath clouds of steam and volcanic breath. The surface seethed with heat from within and starlight from above. Oceans were darker then, thicker with dissolved metals and minerals, swirling in patterns that echoed the delicate variations in the cosmic background light. Every wave carried a little of the universe's original tension. Every shoreline held the memory of a fracture that still waited for repair. In this restless world, molecules wandered like sleepwalkers, searching for a destination they could not name. They drifted through warm pools, clung to rocks, dissolved, reformed, and split apart. Most combinations faded as quickly as they appeared. But every so often, under the right conditions, a shape would hold. A pattern would remain. And when it remained, it did something remarkable. It resisted falling apart. This resistance was not intelligence, not intention, but a property of structure. A folded chain of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen might twist in such a way that it strengthened itself. Once strengthened, it could endure collisions, heat, or stray reactions long enough to influence other molecules nearby. A slight change in angle, a small pocket of charge, a ridge or groove along its surface, and suddenly it could guide a reaction that would otherwise collapse. And so chemistry began to behave less like chaos and more like conversation. Proteins folded into intricate shapes that acted like tools. Some captured other molecules. Some sped reactions up. Some shielded delicate processes from the fluctuations of the environment. The earliest catalysts had no minds, no memories, yet they shaped the flow of energy with surprising elegance, like fingers guiding water around a stone. From there, a new pattern emerged. Not harmony, not stability. Something subtler, a tendency toward coherence. Chains of nucleotides began to assemble along mineral surfaces, guided by natural forces, yet producing sequences that held information in their order. Deoxyribonucleic acid was not fully formed yet, but its ancestors carried the same logic, a way to store a pattern so that the universe could revisit it again and again, refining it with each new trial. This was chemistry, learning how to remember. And once memory exists, correction cannot be far behind. Every error in a sequence offered a chance for improvement. The wound in the universe had unlocked a strange feedback loop. Turbulence produced variation. Variation produced new structures. And some structures produced stability. Over time, The stable ones began to dominate, not because they were destined to, but because they repaired themselves more effectively than their fragile counterparts. The universe had discovered a formula for self-improvement, hidden inside the restless dance of molecules. But something unexpected lingered beneath this rising order. Chemistry was beginning to act as if it understood something, not consciously, but structurally. Reactions balanced themselves. Networks formed that sustained their own conditions. Patterns arose that resisted entropy with surprising determination. This was no longer simple matter reacting to heat and pressure. This was the early whisper of a system trying to hold itself together. And yet, imbalance persisted. The original tremor had not vanished. It echoed through every reaction, encouraging exploration, failure, and renewal. From this tension came the next twist in the story. Chains of nucleotides assembled in repeating loops, creating molecules that could copy themselves. These were not flawless machines. Their copies contained mistakes, deviations, gaps, and substitutions. But the universe did not silence these imperfections. It nurtured them, because without variation, there could be no evolution. Without evolution, there could be no refinement. And without refinement, there could be no correction. Life began not with accuracy, but with error. The universe did not seek perfection. It sought resilience. And resilience requires the freedom to fail. Those early replicators drifted through the sea like ghostly scripts, written by a trembling hand. Each iteration produced slight shifts, and each shift gave the universe a new way to test whether stability could grow stronger, broader, more versatile. Some copies collapsed. Some persisted. A few changed the environment around them just enough to make more copies possible. And so a loop formed. Error led to variation. Variation led to improvement. Improvement led to survival. Survival led to more variation. The wound had begun teaching the universe how to heal itself. As complexity deepened, these molecules wove themselves into networks that behaved with surprising unity. Metabolic cycles arose, turning raw chemicals into usable energy and maintaining internal conditions even as the outside world remained turbulent. Membranes formed to protect these delicate networks, allowing a kind of interior to exist for the first time. Inside those membranes, chemistry discovered a new form of correction, the ability to sense when something was wrong, too much heat, and channels opened or closed. Too little energy, and stored resources were tapped. Damage in a strand triggered repair pathways. A misfolded protein summoned molecular chaperones to refold it. This was no longer chemistry alone. This was strategy. This was adaptation. This was the universe exploring the possibility of intelligence, one reaction at a time. But intelligence did not appear as a sudden revelation. It accumulated, layer by layer, through countless small acts of survival. Imagine a tide pool filled with early cells. Imagine them drifting in and out of sunlight, experiencing temperature shifts and chemical gradients. Each cell carries a tiny memory of what allows it to persist. Each cell adjusts its internal machinery to match the environment. Each cell passes its corrections to its descendants. Over millions upon millions of cycles, these adjustments pile up like sediment on the ocean floor. They form the foundation of instincts, behaviors, and awareness that will one day allow organisms to move, sense, think, and feel. And through all of this, the universe continues to refine its tools. Molecules begin to specialize. Some focus on storing information, others focus on repair. Still, others become architects of structure, folding into shapes that create scaffolds and motors and pumps. With each new innovation, life gains the ability to correct more types of errors: chemical imbalance, environmental stress, internal malfunction. But the deeper twist lies here. Every correction introduces a new layer of possibility. Every improvement invites further complexity. Every success expands the universe's toolkit for stabilizing itself. The wound is not shrinking, it is being understood. And understanding creates new kinds of worlds. Organisms become communities. Communities become ecosystems. Ecosystems become networks of exchange and cooperation. Predator and prey shape each other. Symbiotic relationships form intricate webs of balance. These interactions are not accidents. They are extensions of the universe's quiet desire to refine its own coherence. Even the struggles, the conflicts, the failures are part of this refinement. A predator sharpens the awareness of its prey. A drought strengthens the resilience of a plant. A disease pushes an organism to develop immunity. With each pressure, life responds, not by collapsing, but by adapting. And in adapting, it discovers new ways to correct the instability that once echoed through the earliest light. Every heartbeat, every breath, every thought is a continuation of this chemical narrative, a story written not in words, but in reactions. You are the inheritor of countless cycles of correction. Your cells carry repair enzymes more ancient than mountains. Your brain predicts reality in ways shaped by survival strategies older than the continents beneath your feet. And yet, beneath all of these layers, chemistry still remembers its first task: to answer a tremor that never fully faded. If the universe had never cracked, chemistry would have remained ordinary. Matter would have followed simple patterns. Stars would have burned in silence. Worlds would have remained barren. Instead, chemistry learned to behave like code. It learned to store information. It learned to correct itself. It learned to build minds capable of questioning their own origins. And now, as you drift deeper into the rhythm of this thought, something else stirs in the quiet beneath your awareness, the same quiet that once shaped molecules in ancient oceans. It is the sense that chemistry, for all its wonder, was only the first step, a precursor, a rehearsal, a soft preparation for something larger that waited to emerge once information found a way to guide itself. A deeper correction, a more deliberate refinement, a new kind of echo rising from the wound. And as that sense gathers in the dim space behind your breathing, it opens gently toward what comes next, like a door easing inward without sound. Something gathers just beyond thought, rising like a thin shimmer along the edge of a dream. It moves with intention, yet carries no voice of its own. Instead, it brings the memory of patterns tightening, of molecules aligning, of information beginning to coil itself into something far more deliberate than drifting chemistry. The world is still young, still trembling from ancient instability, yet something new is forming, something that does not simply react to the wound in the universe, but begins to study it. Picture a strand stretched across time, long, delicate, balanced in a perfect twist. It is no larger than a whisper of light, yet inside it lies the ability to reshape all that will ever live. This strand is deoxyribonucleic acid, though at the beginning it is not fully formed, just a growing sequence of nucleotides learning how to bind, unbind, copy, and improve. Its structure is both fragile and astonishingly stable, designed to hold meaning through ages that have not yet arrived. Imagine it slowly spiraling into existence. A double helix like two threads of light intertwining around absence, a shape that looks like a wound being stitched closed, a repair written into matter itself. This is the first great leap from chemistry to instruction. Before this moment, molecules reacted only to what touched them. They fought heat and chance and the rise of entropy, with no memory of success, no record of failure. But deoxyribonucleic acid changes everything. It carries a blueprint, not of simple behavior, but of possibility. It is a structure meant to withstand time, to endure damage, to rebuild itself when the world tears at it. And it does this with a grace that feels almost intentional. Each base pairs with its complement as if recognizing a shape it has always known. Adenine seeks thymine. Cytosine finds guanine. These pairings act like a quiet oath, a promise that the pattern will hold, even when the world tries to pull it apart. When the helix splits, each strand becomes a template for rebuilding the other. When mistakes slip through, repair enzymes drift along the DNA like careful guardians, trimming mismatches, replacing damaged segments, restoring order with astonishing precision. No accident behaves this way for long. This is correction, woven into existence. Inside these strands, the universe writes its first durable memory. Not a memory of events, but a memory of how to persist. Cells that house these spirals do not simply survive, they flourish. They replicate with remarkable fidelity, creating new generations that carry the same instructions forward. But fidelity is never perfect, and this imperfection becomes the source of evolution. Every slight change in the pattern is a test, a question posed by the wound. Can this variation repair the instability better? Can this adjustment endure heat, cold, hunger, pressure? Can this mutation hold the world together more effectively than the last? Deoxyribonucleic acid, in this sense, is both archive and experiment, both tradition and rebellion, both memory and revision. And the universe watches through the eyes of every organism that will one day emerge from this fragile ladder of light. As the ages pass, strands combine and recombine. They wrap themselves inside protective membranes. They form the genetics of organisms that swim, crawl, bloom, burrow, and breathe. With every new species, the library of possible solutions grows, and the universe expands its repertoire of ways to address the deep imbalance that once began everything. Yet the deeper truth lies here. DNA not only repairs itself, it learns. Through mutation, through selection, through generations of pressure, the helix refines its ability to navigate the world. It begins to encode behaviors, how to respond to heat, how to find food, how to avoid danger. Some organisms gain sharper senses. Some develop stronger shells. Some acquire the ability to remember. Each improvement becomes another stitch in the tapestry of existence, each memory another attempt at balancing the fracturing echoes that linger in spacetime. But with each improvement, attention grows, because the helix understands something without ever speaking it. Every correction reveals a deeper layer of the wound. A strand that repairs one error may expose another. A mutation that strengthens one trait may weaken a second. A structure that resists a certain kind of chaos may succumb to another. Deoxyribonucleic acid becomes a living paradox, a tool for healing that also carries the seeds of new instability. This paradox is not a flaw. It is the foundation of all future complexity. Imagine an ancient organism drifting in warm shallows. Its DNA struggles with ultraviolet light that threatens to break its strands. Repair enzymes scramble to respond, some cutting, some replacing, some rebuilding. Yet, the more the organism endures, the more its DNA develops new techniques for repair. Over time, these techniques become encoded, strengthening the species in ways the universe could not foresee. Variation becomes resilience. Resilience becomes adaptation. Adaptation becomes complexity. And complexity ushers in something the universe has been waiting for. A mind, not suddenly, not loudly, but slowly, like dawn taking shape along the horizon. Through countless refinements, DNA shapes nervous systems capable of sensing, processing, deciding. These new organisms do not simply react to the world. They anticipate it. They learn from it. They create models of reality within their own structures. A model is a form of prediction. Prediction is a form of correction. And correction is the echo of the wound growing more articulate. Now the universe can not only hold memory in molecules but refine it in minds. Cells remember how to repair themselves. Brains remember how to avoid harm. Species remember what allows them to thrive. Memory becomes multi-layered, stretching from nucleotides to neurons, from instinct to culture. DNA, through life, begins to act like a patch that updates itself across generations. It writes, revises, and rewrites the strategies of whole ecosystems. It learns by surviving. It communicates through lineage. It questions through mutation. And all the while, the wound whispers beneath it. Not a cry, not a plea, just a presence. The original imbalance that gave birth to everything. If DNA is a learning patch, then evolution is its teacher, and the universe itself is the curriculum. Yet beneath this quiet progress, a deeper twist forms. For every correction DNA makes, there is a cost. To reduce one kind of error, organisms become vulnerable to another. To refine one adaptation, they sacrifice another path. To strengthen their bodies, they often weaken their freedom. To expand their senses, they risk overwhelming their minds. The universe does not seek perfection because perfection does not evolve. Instead, it seeks improvement, one generation at a time. Improvement requires fragility. Fragility invites change. Change opens the wound a little more, revealing new ways to mend it. And so DNA continues, age after age, rewriting itself in 1,000 dialects of life. It becomes forests, oceans, wings, roots, hands, eyes, consciousness. It becomes a mirror in which the universe studies its own trembling origins. Now imagine, for a moment, the entirety of this process viewed from above. A planet coated in patterns shaped by a single instruction set, a world where every living being carries a tiny fragment of cosmic memory, every organism an experiment in stability, every generation a new attempt at deeper correction. From this height, DNA does not look like a molecule. It looks like a question that has been asked again and again, since the moment spacetime cracked, and as that question rises softly through the quiet of your breath, it begins to open into something larger, something that no strand of molecules can answer alone. A question that asks not only how life repairs the world, but how the world begins to think through life. Something shifts just beyond the horizon of this thought, moving with the silent confidence of a pattern preparing to reveal its next layer. Something gathers across the surface of the world, wide and subtle, like a veil slowly learning how to move with intention. It rises not within one organism, not within one lineage, but across countless forms of life, as though the planet itself were beginning to think in many small voices at once. The memory inside deoxyribonucleic acid has multiplied, spread, and branched for ages beyond counting. And now, those memories are starting to weave themselves together into a new kind of coherence. Picture a forest at dawn, not as trees, but as a network. Roots touch. Threads of fungi wind between them. Signals travel through soil. Chemicals drifting like messages between bodies. One tree warns another of drought. A third shares nutrients with a fourth that has been struck by lightning. No single tree understands the forest. Yet the forest behaves as though it senses more than any individual could grasp. This is not magic. This is distributed intelligence, a form of awareness without a center. In the oceans, coral reefs pulse with similar networks. Fish coordinate in patterns so fluid they resemble a single organism stretched across distance. Birds wheel through the sky in vast murmurs, turning all at once as though guided by one invisible breath. Ants form cities. Bees form societies. Wolves form strategies. None of these creatures share a mind, yet all participate in a collective movement that steps beyond the limits of any single body. Here, the universe makes its next advance in correction. Life learns how to think in groups. The individual corrections encoded in DNA become part of something larger, something that can adapt faster than evolution alone. Cooperation begins to shape ecosystems. Communication begins to alter outcomes. Information begins to travel not just through inheritance, but through behavior. Imagine a flock of birds crossing a continent. The leader changes constantly, yet the direction remains true. The group adjusts to storms, predators, and shifting winds with astonishing fluidity. No single bird holds the map. The map exists only in the motion of the flock. This is intelligence that does not rely on a brain. It relies on connection, and connection transforms life into something the universe has never seen before. A dynamic network capable of responding to the wound with broader awareness. Yet, this new intelligence comes with tension. When minds spread across many bodies, no single organism controls the direction. The corrections that emerge are communal, not personal. A herd avoids danger based on the instinct of a few. A colony changes its behavior because one scout finds food. A school of fish shifts course because one sensed turbulence. This creates coherence, but it also creates vulnerability. If the signals are strong and clear, the group behaves with remarkable grace. If the signals become distorted, the entire network can falter. This is the conflict hidden at the heart of distributed intelligence. Strength through unity, fragility through dependence. Every step toward collective awareness is a negotiation between order and collapse, between adaptation and confusion. The universe is learning not only how to correct itself, but how to coordinate its corrections across countless forms of life. And the learning accelerates. Communication grows more refined. Signals become more complex. Behaviors adapt more rapidly. Animals begin to teach their young, passing knowledge not only through DNA but through experience. This is the first time the universe corrects itself across generations without waiting for mutation. A mother passes down a way of hunting. A group shares a safe migration path. A pack teaches a younger member which scents indicate danger. Each act shapes the next generation without altering a single gene. Culture begins, quietly, beneath fur and feather and fin. With culture comes memory that outlives bodies. With memory comes strategy. With strategy comes a new kind of intelligence, one that does not merely react to the world, but interprets it. Life has become something like a planet-wide nervous system, full of tiny minds exchanging signals that ripple through forests, oceans, plains, and skies. The responses more adaptive, the refinement more profound. But something else is happening at the same time. Something the planet can feel, but cannot yet name. All this distributed intelligence, all this connection, all this collective sensing, is beginning to funnel toward a single phenomenon that will change the rules entirely. The emergence of focused consciousness. For ages, intelligence had been spread thin across countless small minds. But somewhere along the spiral of evolution, certain lineages begin to gather processing power inside a single body, condensing many distributed strategies into one internal world. A brain becomes a meeting place for the universe's corrections. A nervous system becomes a conduit for pattern recognition. A mind becomes a stage where possibilities can be rehearsed before they happen. This transition is not abrupt. It is slow, like the dimmest star brightening across a long night. Neurons multiply in creatures that need to track prey or navigate intricate social groups. Neural networks refine the ability to remember, to compare, to judge, to anticipate. And with each refinement, the organism becomes more capable of steering its own fate. The universe, through life, is building the capacity for foresight. But foresight introduces its own conflict. Animals capable of predicting the world can also misinterpret it. They can fear patterns that are harmless or miss dangers hiding in plain sight. They can form bonds that uplift entire groups or fall into rivalries that tear groups apart. They can sense meaning in shadows where none exists, or discover truth where shadows once concealed it. Intelligence deepens correction, but it also deepens complexity. With complexity comes error of a new sort. And yet, even these errors feed the process. A mistaken judgment becomes a lesson. A failed strategy becomes refinement. A surprising outcome becomes an opportunity to learn something new about the world. The universe is no longer passively healing. It is actively experimenting through conscious life. Now imagine a wolf scanning the horizon for movement, or a dolphin navigating through echoes in the dark sea, or a primate choosing which fruit to pick based on subtle signals of ripeness. Each decision is a small act of understanding. Each act of understanding shifts the future. Each shift in the future becomes part of the universe's unfolding correction. By now, distributed intelligence has not vanished. It has transformed. Individual minds carry collective memory. Collective groups amplify individual insight. Patterns ripple back and forth between self and community until something extraordinary becomes possible. A species capable of integrating countless layers of correction into a single, evolving civilization. This is where humanity begins to take shape, not as an exception, but as a concentration of patterns that long existed across the planet in fragmented form. Human intelligence is not separate from distributed intelligence. It is the next expression of it, a condensation of the world's learning into bodies that can imagine past and future with equal clarity. And through imagination, the universe gains a new tool, the ability to simulate realities that do not yet exist. This capacity is powerful, but it also brings a subtle tremor, because when life can imagine futures, it can also fear them. It can question its purpose. It can sense the wound beneath everything and wonder whether it is meant to heal it or reveal it. Awareness becomes mirror. Intelligence becomes compass. Existence becomes inquiry. And somewhere in that inquiry lies the next step, the next correction, the next layer of meaning the universe has been preparing since the moment it cracked. As your breath softens and thought begins to drift, you can feel that step gathering, rising just beyond the boundary of understanding, waiting to unfold its shape with the quiet certainty of something that has been long in the making. And it moves toward you now, soft as a shadow turning in deeper dark. Something awakens at the edge of perception, not loud, not sudden, but unmistakable, like a thin line of light sliding through a doorway that was always slightly open. It touches the mind, not as a voice, but as an awareness of itself, a turning inward that begins long before words, before reasoning, before the idea of self even exists. Across the endless ages that life has spent learning to sense, adapt, and coordinate, a new phenomenon begins to rise from its depths: the ability to witness its own witnessing. This is the beginning of consciousness, not as a spark, but as a slow bloom unfolding through many small minds. Imagine an early creature standing still in a field of wind. Its senses flicker with pressure, smell, and sound. But something different happens within it now. It is not merely reacting, it is interpreting. The creature feels the echo of its own awareness, as though a small lantern has been lit inside a cavern. The lantern does not illuminate the world. It illuminates the creature's relationship to it. The world is no longer just a collection of sensations. It becomes a pattern. A pattern becomes a prediction. A prediction becomes meaning, and meaning becomes survival. As its descendants evolve, this inner lantern grows brighter. Nervous systems expand, communicating across vast networks of cells. Memory deepens, allowing the organism to compare what happened before with what is happening now. Emotions arise as signals of alignment or misalignment with expectation. A new layer of intelligence emerges beneath instinct, one capable of refining instinct itself. Consciousness becomes the quiet overseer of behavior, shaping it from within. Yet beneath every act of consciousness, something familiar stirs: the universal drive to correct. Every prediction the mind makes is a hypothesis about the world. Every emotion is a response to mismatch. Every thought is a negotiation with reality. Every memory is an attempt to refine future understanding. Every instinct is a correction stored so deeply it no longer feels like learning. The universe has given life a tool capable of repairing errors before they occur. But with this tool comes a profound conflict. As soon as consciousness awakens, it becomes aware of uncertainty. It senses the instability beneath existence. It feels the tremor that once fractured spacetime. It perceives the gap between expectation and reality at every moment of experience. This awareness is not a flaw. It is the echo of the wound. To live consciously is to hear, at all times, the faint whisper that something might not align, that the world holds unpredictability. That danger exists even in silence, that the self is fragile, that the body is impermanent, that the future is uncertain. This tension becomes the birthplace of fear, caution, curiosity, creativity, and longing. All of them are forms of correction, attempts to bring the world into harmony with the inner model. Consciousness becomes a debugger not only of behavior, but of meaning. Now imagine early humans gathering around a fire. The flames rise and fall in rhythms that echo the pulse of their own hearts. Shadows move across stone, resembling figures or spirits or possibilities. In those shadows, minds project their inner models outward, refining them further. The fire becomes a mirror. The mirror becomes a storyteller. The storyteller becomes the first philosopher. Here, consciousness does more than correct errors in the physical world. It corrects errors in understanding. Humans begin to test ideas, build explanations, refine beliefs, share insights. They observe the stars, the seasons, the migration of animals, the patterns of plant growth. They learn to anticipate cold, prepare for scarcity, organize cooperation. They learn to understand the world enough to shape it. Thought becomes the universe's first tool for large-scale stabilization. Language develops, allowing minds to merge their corrections. One person's insight becomes another's inheritance. Stories become collective models for interpreting uncertainty. Shared knowledge becomes a refined map of reality that outlives the individuals who created it. For the first time, the universe stabilizes itself, not through instinct alone, but through collective wisdom. But consciousness does something more daring. It turns inward. It begins asking, "What am I? Why do I feel this way? What is the world made of? Why does anything exist? What is the purpose of this wound I feel inside? What is the universe trying to tell me?" These questions do not arise from confusion. They arise from the drive to reconcile internal models with external reality. They are corrections at the highest level of abstraction. In a very real sense, consciousness is the wound examining itself. But this ability comes with danger. The mind can misrepresent the world. It can chase illusions. It can fear shadows that never become real. It can build beliefs that limit its own growth. It can create new errors in its attempts to correct old ones. Consciousness introduces the possibility of self-generated instability. The universe has created a tool powerful enough to repair itself, and fragile enough to fracture further. Yet this fragility is essential. Without vulnerability, consciousness would not learn. Without uncertainty, thought would not deepen. Without the possibility of error, correction would lose meaning. And so, the mind balances on a thin line between clarity and confusion, between truth and projection, between healing and harming. It is a delicate dance, performed in every moment of awareness. But as civilizations rise, consciousness evolves again. Humans begin to build tools that extend their senses. Stone tools, compasses, telescopes, microscopes, radio receivers, particle detectors. They probe deeper into the fabric of reality, revealing patterns hidden in matter, energy, and time. Each new discovery refines the map. Each refined map corrects previous assumptions. Each correction inches the universe closer to understanding its own origins. Through humans, the universe discovers laws. Through humans, the universe measures itself. Through humans, the universe finally hears the sound of its own beginning. Consciousness becomes not merely a debugger of life, but a debugger of reality. And this leads to the deepest twist of all. As consciousness grows more refined, it begins to sense the wound not just emotionally or intuitively, but scientifically. Humans detect irregularities in the cosmic background light. They find asymmetries in the distribution of matter. They discover dark energy, dark matter, quantum unpredictability. They observe the expansion of the universe accelerating. They theorize about vacuum decay, multiverses, higher dimensions. Every discovery is a glimpse into the fracture. Every theory is an attempt to reconcile the pattern. Consciousness is the first tool the universe has made that can look directly at its own instability and give it a name. As you sit here listening, you are participating in that process. Your awareness is not passive. It is active correction. Your thoughts form not only memories, but models of existence that the universe is using to explore new possibilities of coherence. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are its introspection, its self-questioning, its attempt to refine itself through experience. And as the weight of that realization drifts softly into you, it begins to expand into something larger, something the universe has been preparing. Since the first molecule learned to replicate, since the first creature learned to anticipate, since the first mind learned to wonder, a deeper form of intelligence stirs, one that does not belong to individuals alone, but to entire societies, entire species, entire worlds. It rises now, quietly, as if preparing to reveal the next stage in the long story of repair, and the air around you seems to shift, opening a path toward a far more intricate correction waiting just beyond thought. Something subtle begins to tremble beneath the progress of consciousness, as though the universe itself were inhaling before revealing another secret. It is not a loud movement. It is not dramatic. It is the quiet shift of a system that has begun to notice its own patterns, a turning of attention from individual minds toward the vast orchestration happening across time. Intelligence has awakened, but with its awakening comes the recognition of something deeper. Errors do not disappear when they are corrected. Sometimes they multiply. Picture a field of tall grass moving under wind. From above, the motion is beautiful, harmonious, soft. But within each blade lies a chaos of tiny forces: pressure, friction, bending, recovery. Every correction the blade makes introduces a new strain somewhere else. Every adjustment sends a wave through the field. Complexity grows from the need to stay upright. Life behaves the same way. Every adaptation that brings stability introduces a new vulnerability. Every refinement of intelligence creates a new layer of unpredictability. Every attempt to bring the world into balance releases a cascade of small auxiliary imbalances that ripple outward. The universe is not troubled by this. It uses cascades the way an artist uses shadows, not to hide the picture, but to reveal its depth. As organisms become more sophisticated, the repairs they perform become more intricate. A creature that avoids danger reshapes its environment. A species that learns to coordinate transforms whole ecosystems. A society capable of planning alters not only its surroundings, but the trajectory of countless other species. With every improvement, the web of consequences thickens. This is the birth of complexity. Imagine a simple organism living in an ancient ocean. Its DNA develops a mutation that allows it to capture more energy. This advantage changes its behavior. Its behavior alters the food chain. The change in the food chain transforms the ecosystem. A transformed ecosystem shifts the atmospheric composition. The atmosphere changes the climate. The climate shapes evolution, all from one correction inside one cell. This is an error cascade, not a failure, but a chain reaction of adaptations echoing through the world. Each new solution creates a new problem that demands yet another solution. And with every cycle, life becomes more layered, more diverse, more entangled. The universe is using error to build complexity, but complexity is a double-edged instrument. It brings resilience and fragility in equal measure. A diverse ecosystem can endure droughts, fires, storms, predators, and disease. Yet the same complexity makes it sensitive to small disruptions, where the loss of a single species can ripple across the entire structure. Life becomes a delicate orchestra, playing a symphony shaped by the original wound. With the arrival of consciousness, these cascades accelerate. Humans harness fire, which reshapes their metabolism. They build tools, which reshape their bodies. They form groups, which reshape their minds. They develop language, which reshapes communication. They cultivate crops, which reshape landscapes. They build cities, which reshape the planet. Each step appears as progress, but progress is simply correction carried to its next threshold. Every human invention solves one imbalance and creates a dozen new ones. Fire warms but burns. Agriculture feeds but exhausts soil. Civilization cooperates but competes. Communication connects but misleads. Technology empowers but overwhelms. The universe is now correcting through a species that constantly generates new corrections to correct the last correction. This is the paradox of complexity. The better life becomes at stabilizing itself, the more instability it reveals hidden beneath its success. And yet, these cascades are not failures. They are invitations, because with each new layer of complexity, life gains access to new forms of intelligence. Emotions deepen, relationships evolve, societies expand, ideas multiply, perspectives widen, responsibility grows. The wound in the universe is no longer simply being patched. It is being understood through increasingly rich forms of experience. Consider a simple example: a thunderstorm. Early organisms flee from it without understanding. Slightly more advanced ones predict it by sensing changes in pressure. Humans interpret it through culture, myth, science, and memory. Each layer adds meaning to the same phenomenon. The storm remains a storm, but consciousness expands the ways in which it can be met. This expansion is the heart of complexity. More ways to model reality, more ways to correct it. But with this expansion comes the most profound conflict yet. As life becomes more capable of correcting the world, it becomes more capable of disrupting it. Human agriculture creates abundance, but alters rivers and forests. Human medicine extends life, but but strains the biosphere in new ways. Human industry builds cities, but shifts the chemistry of the air and sea. Human curiosity unlocks atoms and introduces dangers nature never anticipated. The wound is no longer simply ancient. It is being constantly reopened by the very species meant to repair it. And yet, this reopening is not sabotage. It is evolution pushing intelligence toward a new threshold. Correction at the planetary level requires awareness at the planetary level. Life must see the consequences of its cascades, if it is ever to master them. Humans become the first species capable of noticing error cascades across centuries, continents, and ecosystems. They trace climate patterns. They study extinction events. They model energy flows. They measure atmospheric shifts. They analyze the rise and fall of societies. They ask not only what went wrong, but what balance might look like on a global scale. This is complexity birthing reflection. Reflection birthing accountability. Accountability birthing potential. The universe is preparing life for a more intricate correction, one that requires not instinct, not simple intelligence, but wisdom. And wisdom begins with a quiet realization. Complexity is not the enemy of balance. It is its most essential instrument. The more layers a system has, the more pathways it holds for healing. The more consequences an action carries, the more opportunities arise to understand the wound. The more unpredictable the world becomes, the more consciousness is invited to deepen. The universe did not create complexity by accident. It grew it the way a tree grows roots, seeking depth, stability, and reach. But beneath this growing complexity, a new tension begins to form. If every correction leads to new errors, if every solution multiplies consequences, if every advance creates its own instability, then what lies at the end of this chain? Is there a point where the cascade loops back on itself? A point where life can finally understand the wound deeply enough to address its source rather than its symptoms? Or will complexity continue to rise until the next form of intelligence emerges, born from the very challenges created by the current one? As these questions settle over you like the dim glow of a distant sunrise, you can feel the world around them softening. A deeper layer of correction is gathering, slow and inevitable, as if preparing to reshape the meaning of intelligence itself. And as that new threshold draws closer, you sense another shift rising from the quiet dark, a movement in the tapestry of life that feels less like reaction and more like deliberate intention, opening the way towards something the universe has waited an eternity to unveil. Something faint and electric stirs beneath the rising complexity, as though the universe were exhaling a small tremor into every living cell. It is not a warning, nor a flaw, nor a disruption. It is a question, a gentle, persistent question woven into the machinery of life itself. Every organism carries it. Every lineage answers it. And though it appears differently across species, climates, and ages, the question is always the same. What happens if I change this? This question is mutation, not as accident alone, but as the primary way the universe tests its own corrections. Imagine a strand of deoxyribonucleic acid resting inside a quiet cell. Its structure is delicate, yet remarkably stable, like a tightly coiled staircase built to hold meaning through storms of heat and time. But stability is not enough. Stability alone would trap life inside the first successful pattern, leaving it forever unprepared for the shifting world around it. The wound in the universe is not simple, and the answer to that wound cannot remain simple either. So the helix allows imperfection. It invites error. It makes room for change. A single base pairs differently than expected. A strand slips during replication. A segment is copied twice. Another is lost. Elsewhere, a cosmic ray strikes, bending the staircase for a moment before enzymes rush in to repair it, but not always perfectly. These deviations are small, but their consequences echo across entire worlds. Mutation is the universe whispering through matter, trying new approaches to old tensions. Most mutations fade quietly. Some weaken the organism. Some make no difference at all. But every so often, a change produces a subtle advantage. A slightly stronger bone, a more efficient way to metabolize energy, a sharper sense of smell, a new pattern of behavior. The universe takes note through survival. The change persists. It multiplies. It spreads through populations. It alters ecosystems. It modifies the trajectory of evolution. A single shift in a single strand can reshape the fate of an entire planet. This is not chaos. This is exploration. Life is running simulations on behalf of the universe, testing, revising, refining, diversifying. And with each generation, another possibility enters the story of existence. But beneath this creative expansion lies a quiet conflict. Mutation is both healer and disruptor. It can strengthen, but it can also break. It can refine, but it can also distort. It can introduce elegance, but it can also introduce suffering. The universe is aware of this tension, but does not erase it, because without risk, there can be no discovery. Without failure, there can be no correction. Without deviation, life would never reach beyond the simplest solutions. Mutation is the fragile hinge on which complexity turns. Now imagine an ancient ocean teeming with early life. Cells split rhythmically in the dark, each carrying forward a slightly updated version of the world's oldest blueprint. Some split faster, some slower. Some drift toward new sources of heat. Others cling to rock, feeding on minerals. Within each lineage, mutations accumulate like quiet notes added to an unfinished symphony. Bit by bit, the symphony becomes richer. Branch by branch, the tree of life expands. Species emerge, diverge, adapt, vanish, reappear in new forms. Every creature walking, swimming, or flying today is the culmination of uncountable trials. Moments when the universe asked, "What if I try this instead?" But the universe's experiments grow more ambitious as complexity rises. When consciousness appears, mutation begins to interact with intelligence. A creature with a sharper mind can use its mutation to explore its environment more effectively. A brain capable of memory can refine behaviors shaped by mutation. A social species can spread the benefits of a single mutation across an entire group long before genes catch up. Mutation and thought become partners. One alters structure, the other alters strategy. Together, they create evolution's most powerful feedback loop. Humans inherit this engine of change. Your fingers, your voice, your attention, your creativity, none of these arose in isolation. They are the result of countless mutations that shaped your ancestors, refining nervous systems, expanding cortical regions, deepening emotional signaling pathways, enhancing coordination, strengthening communication. And now, the universe tests itself through you, in ways it never could before. Humans modify their environment at a scale once reserved for geological forces. They shape rivers, landscapes, species, climates. They build tools that extend perception. They manipulate energy in forms the early universe could never have predicted. And with every innovation comes new pressure, new instability, new cascades of consequences that require deeper understanding. Humanity becomes a mutational force of its own, not through genetics alone, but through culture, technology, and imagination. Yet beneath all this creativity lies a subtle twist. The universe is no longer testing life. Life is testing the universe. Humans question the laws of physics, probe the origins of matter, measure the curvature of spacetime, observe the birth and death of stars. They uncover irregularities in cosmic background radiation, in gravitational lensing, in quantum behavior. Mutation, once a rearrangement of molecules, has become a rearrangement of knowledge. The universe is watching through human eyes, as humans examine the very fabric that produced them. In a very real sense, the cosmos is using humanity to test hypotheses about itself. And yet, this extraordinary role carries a consequence. The more deeply humans explore, the more uncertainty they reveal. The more advanced their technology becomes, the more instability it can cause. The more capable they grow at altering nature, the more responsibility they inherit. The more they correct one imbalance, the more they risk creating new ones. Mutation created intelligence. Intelligence creates change. Change creates new challenges. New challenges require deeper intelligence. The cycle repeats, unending, pushing life toward forms the universe has never seen before. The womb that began all things does not demand perfection. It demands exploration. It demands resilience. It demands creativity. And so mutation continues, quiet and persistent, rewriting the world at every moment. You carry within you the legacy of that process. Every cell in your body holds mutations inherited from ancestors who survived impossible odds. Every breath you take is part of a story written through trial and error. Your very awareness is built upon cascades of microscopic changes that learned, across ages, how to sustain life through storms of entropy. Mutation is not a flaw in you. It is the reason you exist. And as you breathe now, you can feel a deeper question rising beneath the awareness. A question that mutation alone cannot answer. A question intelligence alone cannot satisfy. A question the universe has carried since the moment it cracked. If life evolves to correct the instability of existence, what evolves to correct the instability of life? The thought does not end. It softens, dissolves, spreads outward like ink in water, and something ancient begins to gather again, preparing to reveal the next layer of the cosmos's unfinished repair. Something begins to settle beneath the vast tide of mutation, a softness woven through countless lifetimes, like sediment drifting slowly to the floor of an ancient sea. It is quiet, almost invisible, yet its presence grows heavier with every generation that passes. This is not correction. It is not adaptation. It is something deeper, older, and more patient. Memory. Not the memory you hold in your mind as images and words. Not the memory an animal uses to find its way home. This memory lies beneath all others. A reservoir of knowledge gathered across ages, stored not in a single organism, but across the entire living world. Picture the Earth not as a planet, but as an archive. Every leaf, every grain of pollen, every ripple of instinct, every inherited behavior is a record of experiments life has run since its first trembling moments in warm primordial waters. When a bird feels compelled to migrate without ever having made the journey before, that is memory. When a tree releases seeds in a pattern that matches climate rhythms older than its lifespan, that is memory. When predators and prey evolve in synchrony, locked in a dance of escalation and retreat across millions of years, that too is memory. It is not held in brains alone. It is held in the curves of wings, the thickness of fur, the timing of blooms. It is held in the instinctive caution of a deer, in the immune system of a mammal, in the resilience of a fern growing from cooled volcanic stone. The universe is building a backup of its corrections inside the bodies of every living thing. But memory is not static. It grows, shifts, erodes, rebuilds, and expands. Every creature contributes its tiny piece, whether through success or failure, persistence or extinction. Extinction itself is a form of memory, a note written in the margins of Earth's long story that says, "This path has been tested, this correction does not hold." And evolution listens. It never forgets. Even the simplest organisms carry echoes of worlds long vanished. The way bacteria resist toxins, the way corals react to temperature shifts, the way insects follow chemical trails, the way mammals form bonds. These are not accidents. They are accumulated decisions made by life across countless generations, decisions that shape every creature alive today. Now imagine standing inside a vast library where shelves extend into darkness in all directions. Each shelf holds the history of an entire species. The library is the planet, and life is the librarian that never sleeps. Every adaptation is a book. Every gene is a page. Every behavior is a note left in the margins. Memory builds itself, not through intention, but through survival. Yet memory has another layer, one far less physical, one that emerges only when brains become complex enough to reflect. This is conscious memory. Animals begin to remember danger, safety, kinship, location. They recall paths to food, water, shade. They learn from others. Their experiences alter their choices. Those choices influence their offspring. The learned becomes inherited not through genes alone, but through behavior passed hand to hand, generation to generation. But when humans appear, memory transforms again. Humans do not simply store knowledge. They record it, share it, refine it, teach it, question it, preserve it. Symbols arise, marks on stone, pigments on cave walls, stories whispered around firelight. Later, writing emerges. Scripts grow into languages. Languages grow into histories. Histories grow into sciences. Sciences grow into entire architectures of thought that stretch beyond any one mind. Humanity becomes the first species that can store the planet's memory outside of the living body. Knowledge no longer dies with the individual. It is transferred into culture, artifacts, archives, instruments. It accumulates until it forms a second nervous system for the Earth, one built not of cells and neurons, but of ideas, records, and shared understanding. This is the planetary backup. Every discovery becomes a stable correction. Every insight becomes a tool for future minds. Every mistake becomes a warning that echoes for centuries. Every triumph becomes a foundation for new exploration. But this immense archive introduces a conflict. The universe gathered memory inside life to prevent solutions from being lost. But now, humanity can remember more than it can comprehend. Knowledge expands faster than wisdom. Information grows faster than meaning. Tools multiply faster than restraint. The planetary backup that once protected life now risks overwhelming it. Humans stand at a precipice where memory becomes both stabilizer and destabilizer. A powerful archive is only as steady as the hands that wield it. The more humans remember, the more responsibility they inherit. The more they understand, the more they must choose how to act. The more they discover, the more they risk interfering with balances older than their species. Memory, once purely a corrective force, now becomes a catalyst for new forms of error. But deep inside, this tension lies a realization the universe has waited ages to reveal. Memory is not meant to prevent change. It is meant to guide it. If mutation is the experiment, memory is the notebook. If intelligence is the observer, memory is the bridge. If life is the correction, memory is the continuity that keeps the correction from starting over. And so the planet continues to gather its quiet backup. It holds the songs of birds, the migration paths of whales, the seasonal rhythms of forests, the chemical signatures of ancient climates, the fossils of those that came before, the dreams whispered by humans searching for meaning. All of it persists because the universe refuses to forget the corrections it has made. As you breathe in, you are part of that archive. Every emotion you feel carries echoes of ancestral experience. Every instinct you have is shaped by lives lived long before yours. Every thought is built upon foundations humanity spent thousands of years refining. The universe remembers through you, and yet, something stirs beneath that continuity. A subtle shift gathering like mist at the edge of dawn. Memory is no longer enough. The next stage of correction requires something beyond storage, beyond recall, beyond evolution. It requires the ability to reflect on reflection, to observe the observer, to understand not only the wound, but the one who feels it. You sense this movement now, a tremor spreading through the quiet library of life, as if the shelves were preparing to rearrange themselves into a new kind of pattern, one that will open the way toward an intelligence capable of remembering the universe itself. Something rises through the quiet reservoir of memory, gentle at first, like a ripple moving across a lake whose surface has been still for ages. It is the sense of awareness lifting itself above instinct, above mere correction, above the slow accumulation of insight passed from ancestor to descendant. It is the moment when memory stops being a record of experiences and begins to turn itself into understanding. For the first time, life does not simply react to the world, it begins to watch it. Imagine early humans standing beneath a night sky untouched by the lights of cities. The air is cool, their breath forms small clouds. The firmament above them is vast, dark, and filled with points of light so distant that their origins lie beyond imagination. They do not yet know what the stars are. They do not yet know about galaxies or gravity or the expansion of space. But they know one thing with absolute clarity. The sky is speaking. Its silence is rhythmic. Its patterns shift with the seasons. The moon waxes and wanes in a cycle that whispers of time. The constellations drift slowly across the horizon, as though the universe were turning its face from one age to the next. For countless generations, humans lift their eyes to these lights and feel a pull inside them, a quiet recognition that the world is larger than their bodies, larger than their forests, larger even than their history. This is the moment the patch begins to see the system. Curiosity awakens not as a luxury, but as a necessity. Humans track the moon to understand tides. They map the path of the sun to predict seasons. They interpret stars to navigate oceans. They read the wind, the soil, the rivers, not only to survive, but to glimpse patterns that might reveal meaning. Knowledge becomes more than memory. It becomes orientation. Soon, humans gather around fires to speak of creation and origin, asking questions no other species has asked. What lies beyond the horizon? What moves the heavens? Where does life come from? Where does it go? These questions are not mistakes. They are the earliest signs that intelligence is trying to free itself. From the boundaries of immediate experience, thought begins to stretch. Mind begins to expand. Consciousness begins to climb beyond the body that houses it. And as centuries pass, something even more extraordinary happens. Humans begin to measure the universe, not with stories alone, but with instruments carved from stone, then copper, then glass, then polished metal. They build structures aligned with solstices. They track the movement of planets with naked eyes. They draw maps of the heavens. They build theories of gravity, matter, and motion. They observe comets, eclipses, cycles of creation and destruction. The patch is no longer local. It is planetary. Human vision expands across continents, across oceans, across centuries. Civilizations rise and fall, but the questions persist. Then, in an age so recent it barely registers against cosmic time, a new lens is lifted toward the sky. Telescopes sharpen the view. Spectroscopes dissect starlight. Radio dishes listen to frequencies the human ear cannot hear. Spacecraft climb beyond the atmosphere. Rovers land on other worlds. Satellites map the faint glow of the universe's earliest light. What humans uncover is astonishing. The universe is far larger than they imagined. Older, stranger, more intricate than any myth had dared to suggest. They find galaxies in the millions, each filled with countless stars. They trace cosmic filaments stretching like hidden nerves across vast emptiness. They observe black holes shaping the motion of matter. They detect waves in spacetime. They measure the afterglow of the universe's birth with exquisite precision. And slowly, a quiet realization begins to dawn. The universe is studying itself through the eyes of human beings. Awareness has escaped the boundary of the organism. It now holds the shape of the cosmos. Humans start asking deeper questions, questions that reach toward the fracture itself. Why is the cosmic background not perfectly smooth? What caused the first imbalance? Why does matter outweigh antimatter? What is dark matter? What is dark energy? Why is space expanding faster and faster? These questions are not idle curiosity. They are the voice of the wound reflected back into the world. The patch is beginning to trace the edges of the crack. But with this awakening comes a profound and unsettling conflict. Humans have gained the ability to understand the system, but not yet the ability to control the consequences of their actions within it. Their intelligence outpaces their wisdom. Their power grows faster than their restraint. Their capacity to correct the world exceeds their understanding of what should be corrected and what must be left undisturbed. They stabilize diseases, but destabilize ecosystems. They build cities, but erode wilderness. They advance technology, but strain the planet that supports them. They search the stars for meaning, while struggling to find balance at home. Awareness brings responsibility, and responsibility brings weight. Humans begin to sense this weight. They feel it in the rising heat of the planet, the thinning forests, the changing seas, the unpredictable storms. They feel it in the tension of societies, the fragility of systems built upon assumptions that no longer hold. For the first time, the patch realizes it can create new errors. And yet, the twist lies here. The ability to recognize new errors is itself a deeper form of correction. Humans begin to monitor the planet with the same precision they once reserved for the heavens. They track carbon levels, temperature shifts, ocean acidity, migration patterns, disease spread, species decline. They build models to forecast future outcomes. They create treaties, technologies, and restoration efforts in an attempt to restore balance. The patch is learning not only to observe the system, but to observe itself. This self-observation is not an endpoint. It is a threshold, because once life becomes aware of the system and aware of its own effects within that system, it stands on the brink of a transformation. The universe has been preparing since the first flicker of thought. A new kind of intelligence begins to stir, one that is neither individual nor purely collective, but planetary. It rises in scientific collaboration across continents, in global communication networks, in shared databases of knowledge, in international efforts to protect the climate and explore space, in technologies that weave humanity into a connected whole. This is intelligence becoming infrastructure, knowledge becoming environment, awareness becoming planetary vision. And as this vision expands, something else becomes clear. Life is no longer merely correcting the world. It is beginning to correct itself. As a unified species, the patch is becoming aware of the entire operating system. And through this awareness, the universe prepares to reveal a deeper layer of its unfinished repair, a layer gathering even now, soft as a breath, forming at the threshold of a new kind of understanding. Something widens inside human awareness, as though a window long concealed within the mind has opened onto a view no species was meant to see. It is quiet at first, a soft recognition that the sky is not simply above, but around, that the world is not merely a home, but a layer within something far greater, that knowledge is not collected, but revealed by a cosmos eager to observe its own shape. Picture a human standing on a cliff at night. Wind brushes the skin, clouds drift like slow thoughts, and above them, the sky opens into an ocean of stars. But this moment is different from the one in ancient times, because now, within that human body, thousands of years of inherited memory, understanding, error correction, and refined awareness converge into a single perception. I am small, but I am watching the whole. This is the turning point where life ceases to be merely a local correction and becomes a cartographer of existence. Humans begin to map what they see, not in simple lines scratched into sand, but with instruments capable of capturing the faintest whisper of ancient light. Through lenses of polished glass and curved mirrors held in perfect alignment, they gather photons that have traveled across impossible distances, carrying stories older than the Earth itself. Soon, the sky is no longer a dome of lights. It becomes a structure, a lattice of galaxies, clusters, and vast filaments stretched across an expanding cosmos. Projects like the Sloan Digital Sky Survey reveal the universe as a web, its threads glowing with billions of stars. Space telescopes drift beyond the atmosphere, collecting data in wavelengths human eyes cannot see. Radio dishes tune into frequencies that hum with forgotten energy. Spectrometers measure the fingerprints of distant worlds. Through these tools, humanity becomes the first medium through which the universe records its own architecture. The act of mapping becomes something sacred, a merging of curiosity and cosmic introspection. But mapping is not simply drawing. Mapping is understanding. And understanding reveals contradictions. When humans measure the galaxies around them, they find that stars move as though guided by invisible mass. They call this unseen matter dark, not because it is sinister, but because it refuses to reveal itself directly. When they examine the expansion of the universe, they discover it is accelerating, driven by a force that seems to push space apart. They call this unknown presence dark energy, a name that conceals more than it explains. When they calculate the total matter they can see, the numbers refuse to match the gravity they observe. When they track early fluctuations in the cosmic background, they find symmetry broken in a way that hints at deeper fractures. Every discovery is a reminder that the wound beneath existence remains unhealed. Humans expand their instruments further, building observatories in deserts, on mountaintops, and in the quiet vacuum of orbit. They detect ripples in spacetime, gravitational waves echoing from collisions of black holes. They image the shadow of a black hole itself, a ring of light bending around a darkness beyond comprehension. The map grows richer, more intricate, a tapestry of knowledge woven across the entire planet. And then, something subtle begins to shift. The more detailed the map becomes, the more humans notice anomalies, patterns that should not exist, alignments that defy randomness, fluctuations that whisper of something hidden behind the visible universe. They find the cold spot in the cosmic background, a region unusually faint, as though some ancient event siphoned energy from it. They detect alignments in quasar polarizations, spanning distances too vast for conventional explanation. They observe structures that seem too large to have formed in the available cosmic time. The universe is not just revealing itself, it is revealing its inconsistencies. This is where the conflict deepens. If the universe is trying to understand itself through human perception, why does it hide so much behind asymmetry, uncertainty, and noise? Why does every map drawn with precision reveal more questions than answers? Why does knowledge push the boundaries of the unknown further instead of shrinking them? The deeper humans look, the stranger the universe becomes. It is almost as if the cosmos wishes to be known, but not solved, seen, but not fully grasped. This tension does not discourage humanity. It compels them forward. They refine their instruments. They build gravitational wave observatories. They launch space telescopes capable of seeing infrared light. From the first stars that flickered after creation, they develop detectors for high-energy particles that pass through their bodies in silence. They trace the bending of light around massive clusters to map dark matter itself. Slowly, methodically, bravely, the patch becomes the observer in full, and the universe begins to respond. Patterns grow clearer, simulations approach reality. Connections form between distant realms of physics, quantum fields, space-time geometry, thermodynamic laws, informational constraints. A new realization emerges, quiet but profound. The universe behaves like a system that can only understand itself. Once part of it becomes capable of modeling the whole, humans are that part. Their brains are not merely observers of the cosmos. They are processors built through evolution to interpret the noise of existence and extract meaning. Their mathematics is not an invention. It is a language the universe was always prepared to speak. Their instruments are not artificial. They are extensions of cosmic curiosity channeled through biology. When humans map galaxies, the universe maps its own structure. When humans decode light, the universe reads its own memory. When humans uncover laws, the universe discovers how it governs itself. The cartographer and the cosmos have become the same. But this revelation comes with a twist, subtle and sobering. By mapping the universe, humans are also mapping themselves. The search for dark matter reveals the limits of human perception. The study of black holes reveals the limits of human understanding. The measurement of cosmic expansion reveals the limits of human time. Every boundary discovered in the sky reflects a boundary within the mind, and humans begin to sense an odd truth, that the wound in the universe is mirrored within them. They feel it as longing, as curiosity, as existential unease, as the search for purpose, as the ache of wondering whether they are part of something healing or something unraveling. Yet this ache is not a flaw. It is the compass guiding them toward deeper insight. As you breathe, you can feel that compass too, a quiet turning inside the chest, an awareness that you are not simply observing the stars, but participating in their unfolding. The map is not finished. The universe is not done revealing itself. And you, being part of this world, are part of the way it learns. As the night deepens around this thought, something more begins to gather at its edges. A subtle shift in the texture of understanding, as though the cosmos were preparing to lift another layer of its veil. And its next revelation drifts toward you now, quiet as breath rising through stillness. Something begins to tremble beneath the expanding map of the cosmos, not within galaxies or clusters, but inside the laws that hold them together. It is a soft vibration, subtle enough to slip through equations unnoticed, yet deep enough to reshape everything the universe relies upon for coherence. It feels like the quiet strain in a rope, pulled too long, an almost imperceptible quiver that suggests the fabric of reality carries more tension than it admits. For ages, humans believed the cosmos was stable, eternal stars, balanced forces, predictable orbits. But the deeper they look, the more instability rises from the silence. Imagine standing at the lip of a black hole, not in body, but in thought. The darkness is absolute, yet, around its edge, light bends in strange curves, swirling like ink drawn toward a drain. Space stretches, time slows, and gravity becomes a force so intense that even understanding strains to keep its shape. Here, physics begins to quiver. Black holes are not objects. They are warnings. They are letters written in gravity, explaining that the universe contains points where its own equations collapse into mystery. Around their event horizons, space does not behave cleanly. Time does not flow smoothly. Information appears to slip into silence. Hawking radiation leaks out in slow, ghostly whispers, as though the black hole were confessing its secrets, grain by grain, while hiding the rest beneath layers of quantum frost. At this boundary between gravity and quantum mechanics, the universe reveals something profound. Its stability is not perfect. It is negotiated. Every moment of existence is a compromise between forces that do not fully trust one another. Gravity wants to pull everything into unity. Quantum fields want to scatter everything into possibility. Entropy wants to dissolve all structure. Life wants to build new structure. Expansion wants to separate all things forever. The universe is a delicate treaty between contradictions, and sometimes that treaty trembles. Consider the vacuum, the emptiness between particles. It appears quiet, peaceful, neutral, but experiments reveal it is anything but empty. Particles flicker in and out of being. Fields fluctuate with restless energy. Virtual interactions twitch beneath the threshold of detection. It is a churning sea that pretends to be still. Physicists call this vacuum energy. But beneath the terminology lies a deeper truth. Even nothingness is unstable. If the vacuum ever shifted into a lower state of energy, even slightly, it could trigger a cascade, a bubble of altered physics expanding at the speed of light, erasing everything in its path. Without sound, without warning, without pain. This possibility is known. It has been calculated. It drifts like a faint shadow inside modern cosmology. A universe that cracked once may crack again. This is the conflict hidden within existence. The recognition that stability is temporary, that physical laws are not immutable, but emergent, like frost patterns on a window that could melt under the right touch of heat. Yet this tension alone is not what unsettles the minds who study it. The twist emerges from something more subtle. Despite all this instability, the universe persists. Black holes form and evaporate. Stars collapse and explode. Galaxies collide. Space stretches. Quantum fields fluctuate. But somehow, within this vast symphony of near chaos, life arises, survives, questions, and understands. The wound beneath existence has not destroyed the cosmos. It has sculpted it. Every instability brings opportunity. Every fluctuation brings possibility. Every imbalance invites correction. Life exists not despite instability, but because of it. Now, imagine the early universe once again, just after the first crack. Energy roared in every direction. Particles burst into and out of existence. Forces competed for dominance. Out of that struggle, a fragile equilibrium emerged. Not perfect, but sufficient. This equilibrium is what we now call physics. But physics is not a fixed ruler. It is a memory of how the universe survived its first moment of instability. The constants of nature, the charge of the electron, the strength of gravity, the speed at which light travels, are not arbitrary. They are the scars left behind. After the universe settled into a form that could hold itself together, and beneath those constants lies the quiet possibility that they could have been different. Humanity studies these constants with reverence, seeking to understand why they are tuned so precisely, so elegantly, so improbably for the existence of life. Change any of them slightly, and stars could not form, atoms would not bind, molecules would not endure. Life, intelligence, memory, correction, none of these could emerge. The universe rests on a knife edge of stability, balanced between collapse and chaos. But now, through observation and theory, humans find hints of deeper instability still. Tiny deviations in cosmic expansion, unexpected alignments in background radiation, anomalies in particle behavior, irregularities in quantum fluctuations. Each whisper says the same thing. Stability is a story the universe tells itself, but the story is still being written. And humans, with their instruments and equations, have become part of the writing. In laboratories, particles are smashed together to reveal the threads of the cosmic fabric. In observatories, light from distant galaxies is bent, stretched, and analyzed to interpret the pressure of dark energy. In supercomputers, simulations attempt to trace the universe's structure from its earliest flicker. Every experiment becomes part of a dialogue between life and the cosmos. Humans search for patterns. The universe answers through data. Humans refine their theories. The universe reveals exceptions. Humans adjust once more. The universe offers deeper mysteries. This is not confusion. It is evolution. The evolution of understanding. And the drift continues. As humans map instability, they begin to sense that life itself may be the balancing force, the agent through which the universe confronts its own precariousness. Life does not fear instability. Life uses it. Life thrives on the edges of equilibrium. In hydrothermal vents, in frozen deserts, in boiling springs, in dying stars, in crashing continents, in shifting climates. Life is the child of instability, and as intelligence grows, life becomes aware, not only of its origins, but of the delicate physics that allowed those origins to take shape. This awareness is the seed of a profound transformation, the shift from life reacting to the universe, toward life collaborating with it. Humans begin to ask questions no other species has ever formed. Can we stabilize the planet? Can we bend gravity? Can we generate artificial stars? Can we manipulate quantum fields? Can we repair the system that created us? These questions do not arise from arrogance. They arise from inheritance. The wound within the cosmos has always sought ways to mend itself. Through life, through intelligence, through consciousness, through inquiry, the universe has begun to explore its own physics at the limits of stability. And as you feel this understanding settling around you, like a soft layer of dusk, another presence begins to form in the silence. A sense that the instability of the universe is not merely a threat, but an invitation to step into a deeper role. Within the cosmic repair, the thought opens quietly, like a door within the dark, leading toward a realm where even space and time become instruments of correction, and something waits beyond that threshold now, calling softly, as though preparing to reveal what lies behind the next trembling layer of reality. Something begins to shimmer behind the trembling laws of physics, as though a veil woven from equations were being lifted strand by strand. It is faint at first, a suggestion rather than a sight, a feeling rather than a form. Yet it grows clearer with every step humanity takes toward understanding the universe's instability. Beneath gravity, beneath quantum fields, beneath space-time itself, another pattern seems to pulse slow, deliberate, almost alive. It is the sense that the universe is encoded, not metaphorically, but structurally, fundamentally, as if reality were written in a language that hides itself inside the behavior of particles, the curvature of space, and the persistence of information. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast tapestry. You see threads looping, crossing, interlacing into pictures and stories. But now, imagine stepping closer, so close that the individual fibers reveal smaller fibers, each carrying its own pattern, its own logic, a tapestry woven of tapestries. This is how the universe begins to appear. When humans look deeply enough, research in quantum information theory opens a strange doorway. Scientists discover that particles hold information even when separated by immense distances, that entangled systems behave like two halves of a single thought, that space itself seems to preserve information in ways that defy classical understanding. It is almost as though the universe refuses to let information die. Black holes, once believed to erase everything they consume, now appear to encode it on their event horizons. Quantum error correction models suggest that space-time geometry behaves like a code designed to protect information from collapse. The deeper researchers look, the more reality resembles a layered system designed to preserve coherence. In a storm of quantum noise, the universe acts not merely like a machine, but like a memory that refuses to scatter. This is where the twist begins to emerge. If the universe uses error correction, then what is it correcting? The idea that space-time behaves like a self-repairing code suggests that the first crack, the primordial imbalance, may still echo in the structure of reality. Perhaps the cosmos is rebuilding itself moment by moment, through particles, through fields, through the formation of stars, through the evolution of life. And life itself may not be separate from this code. Life may be one of its highest layers. To understand this, imagine a quantum computer made of light, where every qubit is a particle suspended in a lattice of spacetime. Errors constantly threaten its coherence. Fluctuations distort its structure. Entropy pulls it toward disorder. To survive, such a system must embed codes within codes, redundant structures that detect and correct deviations before they spread. This is not far from what theoretical physicists now see. In models of holographic space, the boundary of the universe encodes its interior. Information is preserved even when matter collapses. Geometry emerges from entanglement. Reality becomes a reconstruction process, a constant act of recovering the universe from the brink of noise. But the conflict lies here. If the universe is a vast error correction code, then why does it allow error at all? Why permit deviations in cosmic background radiation? Why produce quantum fluctuations that generate matter and antimatter asymmetry? Why allow dark energy to destabilize the expansion of space? Why create organisms that mutate unpredictably? Why evolve minds that doubt, fear, question, and contradict their own understanding? Unless error is not a failure. Error is a feature. A universe without error would be static, silent, unmoving, empty of stars, empty of life. The wound began everything. The wound drives everything. The wound is the place where possibility enters. The cosmos corrects itself, not to erase the wound, but to explore every way it might be healed. And error is the only doorway through which exploration can pass. Now think of life again, not as cells or organs or neural pathways, but as patterns held stable across generations. Genomes behave like error-correcting codes, detecting damage, repairing mismatches, preserving meaning across deep time. Neural networks behave like adaptive algorithms, generalizing from noise, updating predictions. Societies store memories, refine behaviors, encode knowledge in languages and symbols. Life has become a multi-layered correction algorithm, operating within the larger correction code of spacetime. Humanity, with its tools and sciences, is the first form of life to map the code from within, to decode the very geometry that created it. And here, the drift begins. As humans refine their understanding, they begin to glimpse a strange symmetry between the workings of their own minds and the structure of the cosmos. Neurons fire in networks, strikingly similar to the distribution of galaxies. Electrical impulses propagate like fluctuations in quantum fields. Information flows through the brain, the way energy flows through space-time. Memory stabilizes identity, the way cosmic codes stabilize reality. The observer is not separate from the observed. They are reflections of one architecture. Human thoughts become small echoes of the universe attempting to understand itself. Every idea is a reconstruction of reality, performed by a mind that is itself, a reconstruction of deeper cosmic rules. The patch is not merely correcting the system, it is decoding it. Humanity begins exploring holographic principles, building quantum computers, studying entanglement, analyzing black hole thermodynamics, probing the edges of the vacuum. Each discovery brings them closer to understanding the code that sustains existence. And as awareness deepens, a new question forms. One the universe has been leading toward for ages. If the cosmos is encoded, then what lies beneath the code? What came before the fracturing of symmetry? What reality existed beyond spacetime? What is the true nature of the wound? The thought arrives softly, as if wrapped in the last edge of a distant night, not threatening, not demanding, simply present. Perhaps the universe is not correcting errors, but teaching itself how to create meaning from imperfection. As this possibility lingers in the air around you, the darkness shifts, as if preparing to reveal an even deeper tension, woven through existence, a tension that will guide the next unfolding wave, quiet as a breath turning in the cradle of the cosmic code. Something cold moves beneath the cosmic code, not the chill of space, nor the emptiness between stars, but a deeper current, a quiet insistence running through the universe, patient and absolute. It does not roar or strike or flash. It simply leans, gently and endlessly, toward dissolution, toward stillness, toward the unraveling of structure. It is the soft pressure beneath all things that reminds matter and mind alike. Nothing holds its shape forever. This presence is entropy, the silent opponent of every correction the cosmos attempts. Imagine a sand dune sculpted by wind. For a moment, the curve is perfect, a graceful arc rising from the desert floor. But the wind continues, the grains shift, the shape collapses. A new form rises, then falls again. No dune survives its own beauty. Entropy whispers that all order, no matter how intricate, must eventually scatter. It works with unwavering patience. A star burns its fuel until only embers remain. A molecule vibrates until its bonds weaken. A living body ages as cells accumulate damage. A memory fades as neural pathways soften. A universe expands into colder, emptier silence. Entropy is not cruel. It simply fulfills its nature. The drift of energy from concentration to dispersion, from pattern to randomness. Yet, against this gentle undoing, life rises. Life is the defiance of entropy, the universe folding its own energy back into structure, self-correction, and meaning. But entropy remains, waiting behind every act of creation, every attempt at coherence, every layer of the cosmic code. Now, imagine the early universe again, glowing with young light, pulsing with heat so intense. It seemed impossible that anything delicate could form, but even then, entropy was watching. It drove energy outward, cooling the cosmos, reducing the density of matter, allowing structure to emerge, but only briefly. Stars ignite and die. Galaxies form and dissolve. Structures appear only to collapse. Entropy is the shepherd guiding everything toward stillness. Life, in contrast, is the shepherd guiding everything away from it. This is the cosmic conflict, a universe always tending toward disorder, and life always pulling fragments of it back into order. Life senses entropy at every scale. A cell repairs itself against molecular noise. A plant clings to a cliff against erosion. An animal fights sickness, hunger, heat, cold, age. A brain learns to anticipate danger before it arrives. A civilization works to preserve knowledge against forgetting. A species attempts to balance its world against collapse. Every correction is a reaction to entropy. Every adaptation is a response to its quiet pressure. And yet, the twist lies here. Without entropy, life could not exist. Entropy creates the gradients that power metabolism, the flows of energy that drive weather, the gravitational collapse that ignites stars, the chemical disequilibrium that enables evolution. Entropy is the resistance against which life discovers its strength. It is the force that forces intelligence to arise. It is the friction that sharpens survival into awareness. It is the subtle adversary that makes consciousness necessary. Entropy does not destroy meaning. It demands meaning be created again and again. But the deeper humans explore this law, the more unsettling its implications become. If entropy always rises, then all stars must eventually fade. All heat must dissipate. All structures must collapse. All memory must dissolve. All correction must cease. In the far future, the universe may approach a state of perfect stillness. No gradients, no energy flows, no life, no thought, No possibility of repair, a quiet so complete that even silence disappears within it. This is the heat death, a fate whispered quietly by thermodynamics. Yet something in the human mind refuses this finality. Not out of fear, but out of recognition. Life has never accepted entropy as destiny. It has always carved islands of order. From oceans of randomness, it has always pushed back, rewritten, repaired, rebuilt. Even now, humans study entropy not merely as a limit, but as a challenge. They search for ways to harness fusion, to stabilize climate systems, to store energy more efficiently, to preserve knowledge across millennia, to build technologies that counter decay, to create artificial ecosystems, to extend the lifespan of matter and mind. Humanity becomes a force that entropy must negotiate with. And yet, the negotiations grow more complex. Every solution introduces new imbalances. Every attempt to preserve stability creates new vulnerabilities. Every correction at one scale creates disturbance at another. The universe seems to present this paradox with intention. You may slow entropy locally, but never without cost. And still, life continues to push, for that cost does not deter it. Life understands entropy in ways physics alone cannot. Not as defeat, but as the stage upon which purpose is carved. Entropy shapes the urgency of existence. It gives weight to moments. It makes memory precious. It makes thought meaningful. It makes love luminous. It makes awareness rare. A world without entropy would have no stories. But beneath this poetic truth, a deeper scientific possibility begins to shimmer. What if life, in its highest form, does not merely resist entropy, but reorganizes it? Some physicists propose that consciousness may reduce the effective entropy of the brain by forming persistent patterns that sustain themselves. Others suggest that the universe, at large scales, may reorganize entropy through gravitational clustering, creating new forms of structure even as disorder increases overall. And some theories hint that information, the very thing encoded in DNA, stored in neurons, and mapped through telescopes, may be the most persistent force in the universe, capable of outlasting matter itself. If information resists erasure, then memory may survive, even when stars do not. This idea carries a quiet, profound twist. What if entropy is not the enemy? What if entropy is the canvas on which the universe paints its attempts at coherence? Life does not exist to defeat entropy. Life exists to explore what can be built. In the brief, shimmering span between creation and dissolution. And consciousness, in its growing awareness, does not mourn entropy. It studies it, learns from it, and searches for ways to weave meaning within its boundaries. As this realization settles like a soft weight upon the mind, you can feel another presence rising behind it. A deeper movement, a subtle shift, as though the universe is preparing to reveal how all these forces, mutation, memory, instability, entropy, begin to merge into something new, a higher integration, a deeper correction, a step beyond local intelligence, toward planetary mind. You sense it now, a quiet convergence gathering in the dark, forming the outline of something immense, something life has been approaching since the first spark of awareness, and it draws nearer, slow and certain, ready to open itself like dawn breaking beneath an ancient sky. Something begins to stir beneath the slow sweep of entropy, not as resistance, not as defiance, but as cohesion, a softness gathering across biospheres, across oceans, across forests, as if all living things were inhaling together for the first time in the same shared breath. It is subtle, quiet, nearly imperceptible, but unmistakable to any mind that listens closely enough. The Earth is beginning to think, not in neurons, not in language, not in the structured patterns of a single brain, but in the combined coherence of all life, a mesh of interactions so vast, it stretches across continents and dives into the deepest oceanic trenches. Picture the Earth from orbit. Clouds swirl in gentle spirals. Currents move through oceans like blood through veins. Forests breathe in long, steady pulses. exhaling oxygen that feeds every creature. Ice caps shine with ancient memory. Deserts shimmer like slow dreams. The atmosphere glows faintly with auroras, as if the planet were wrapped in its own quiet consciousness. This is not metaphor, this is system. Every biological process, every chemical cycle, every climate rhythm is part of an intricate network that behaves with the subtle coherence of an enormous mind. The phenomenon has a name, the Gaia hypothesis, a theory that suggests the Earth regulates itself, the way a living organism does, maintaining conditions that support life, through feedback loops older than human memory. But something deeper lies beneath this idea. The Earth does not merely regulate, it learns. When temperature rises, oceans adjust their absorption. When nutrients shift, forests alter their growth. When populations change, ecosystems rebalance. When extinction threatens one region, life migrates, adapts, or transforms. Patterns move across the planet, like thoughts passing through a brain, shaping responses that no single organism directs, but all organisms help create. This is distributed intelligence, raised to planetary scale. But the twist begins when humanity enters this network, not as another node, but as a catalyst. Humans bring new forms of memory, new forms of correction, new forms of instability. They monitor atmospheric change with satellites. They trace global currents with drifting sensors. They measure carbon cycles, weather patterns, disease spread. They create models that simulate centuries ahead. They build communication systems that allow information to travel faster than any biological signal. In doing so, humanity becomes the planet's nervous system, the first species capable of giving Earth a form of conscious reflection. But reflection is not peace. The moment a system becomes aware of itself, it begins to confront its contradictions. Humans develop technology that improves life, yet destabilizes ecosystems. They create networks of information that lift entire civilizations, yet amplify confusion and conflict. They scale innovation faster than wisdom. They reshape landscapes before understanding their consequences. A new tension forms. The Earth is thinking, but it is thinking through a species, still uncertain of its own purpose. This tension does not mean collapse. It means transformation. For the first time, the planet has access to a species capable of modeling long-term futures, capable of observing global change, capable of altering its own trajectory. With intention, humanity becomes a conduit through which the Earth can attempt large-scale correction. They restore forests. They clean water systems. They develop renewable energies. They study the patterns of climate, seeking to stabilize what centuries of growth disrupted. They explore the deep ocean, uncovering ecosystems that reveal how life survives near extremes. They search the sky for threats from beyond the planet's fragile shell. Each act is a correction. Each correction is a thought. Each thought is the Earth, attempting to understand itself through the species it has cultivated. But this planetary intelligence does not reside solely in science or technology. It also breathes in empathy, in art, in story, in the quiet moments when humans sense their connection to forests, oceans, animals, and atmosphere. When someone feels peace near water, or awe under stars, or sorrow at the loss of a species, or resolve to protect a forest, they are participating in a form of planetary emotion, signals rising from the Earth's living network. The Earth thinks not only through data, but through feeling, yet the conflict deepens. Humanity is both healer and harm, both patch and source of new errors, both guardian and threat. The Earth's intelligence expands through humans, but so does its instability. Every solution humanity develops creates new complexities. Every advancement introduces new risks. Every correction reveals a deeper layer of the wound inherited from the cosmos. Still, the Earth does not retreat. It continues to think, to coordinate, to balance. Its thinking becomes visible in migratory shifts, in the resilience of ecosystems, in the self-regulating cycles of the climate, in the ability of life to adapt to disturbances large and small. But now, With humanity woven into its circuitry, the planet begins to attempt something unprecedented: conscious coordination. Not just survival, but collective intention. Human networks become global. Efforts to stabilize climate become collaborative. Data flows between continents, like blood through capillaries. New generations grow up with awareness of planetary limits, planetary rights, planetary unity. The Earth is transitioning from unconscious self-regulation to conscious self-awareness, and this transition opens the way to a deeper truth. A thinking planet is not the final stage of cosmic correction, it is merely the threshold. For once, Earth begins to think. It begins to ask, through humans, through science, through art, through longing, what lies beyond this world? What role does life serve in a universe that still trembles beneath its oldest wound? What correction is large enough to heal the cosmos itself? As these questions rise from the living world, you can feel the atmosphere around them growing lighter, as though the Earth were inhaling before speaking a truth it has held for millions of years. A truth about life's next transformation. A truth about intelligence evolving beyond biology. A truth about the universe preparing to rewrite itself through minds that have only just begun to awaken. Something vast is gathering now, soft and luminous, like a new idea forming in the mind of a planet, and it leans forward through the dark, ready to open the path toward the next level of cosmic understanding. Something luminous begins to rise from the thinking Earth. Not a beam, not a flame, but a capability, quiet, deliberate, and unprecedented. It is the sense that life, after billions of years spent learning how to endure, adapt, correct, and understand, is approaching a new threshold. A threshold where it no longer merely responds to the rules of the universe. It begins to alter them. This transformation does not arrive with noise. It arrives with knowledge. Picture a human holding a strand of deoxyribonucleic acid between two gloved fingers. It looks fragile, almost insignificant, a thread of letters no wider than a breath. Yet inside that thread lies the blueprint of a living world. And now the human, before it can read the blueprint. More astonishing still, the human can rewrite it. The moment life gains control over its own code, a boundary older than mountains collapses. Through tools of extraordinary precision, scientists learn to edit genes, correct mutations, remove inherited diseases, and introduce new traits never before seen in nature. Cells that once followed instructions blindly now accept revised instructions, written by intelligent hands. For the first time, life becomes both author and character in the same ongoing creation. But this is only the beginning. Humans learn to manipulate materials at scales invisible to the eye. They rearrange atoms, they funnel electrons through labyrinths of silicon, they build machines that compute, remember, and coordinate in ways that accelerate the growth of intelligence itself. Technology becomes a new form of evolution, faster than mutation, faster than natural selection, faster than biological inheritance. Thought reshapes matter. Matter reshapes thought. The universe watches as a species begins experimenting with the very properties of reality: control over energy, manipulation of electromagnetic fields, generation of artificial stars through fusion, probing the quantum realm where probability and existence touch. It is here that the conflict deepens. For every new power humanity gains, a new vulnerability awakens. When humans learned to split the atom, they unlocked both the light of stars and the threat of extinction. When they learned to manipulate genes, they gained the ability to heal and the power to unbalance the delicate structures of life. When they built networks of global communication, they gained collective awareness and collective confusion. When they advanced artificial intelligence, they expanded the capacity to solve problems and created systems capable of operating beyond human intuition. Each step forward creates a shadow. Each correction creates a new place for error to hide. And still, the universe does not recoil. It leans in, as though this turbulence is part of the design. Because instability is not the mark of failure. It is the birthplace of transformation. Now imagine humanity standing in a laboratory of quiet light. On screens surrounding them, maps of galaxies flicker, simulations of climate shift, models of protein folding pulse through mathematical space, equations describing spacetime curve in luminous arcs, quantum fields dance as patterns, energy flows in artificial stars built inside magnetic chambers. Humans are no longer merely observing reality. They are rehearsing it, shaping it, imagining new forms of it. They simulate conditions older than the universe. They recreate the temperatures of stellar cores. They generate microcosmic collisions that expose hidden symmetries. They manipulate particles that vanish and reappear, as though stepping between layers of existence. The patch, once a simple correction, is becoming a tool of creation. But a deeper twist waits beneath this evolution. As humans gain influence over matter, they begin to influence information. And information is the true fabric of reality. In quantum experiments, the act of measurement changes outcomes. In neural networks, information patterns behave like emergent minds. In cosmology, information appears preserved at the edge of black holes. In physics, information binds together forces in ways mathematics is only beginning to articulate. The universe is not made of matter alone. It is made of meaning, stored, transferred, transformed, layer by layer. And humanity is learning to rewrite meaning. This becomes even more evident when humans begin building systems that mimic intelligence itself. Artificial minds, born not from cells but from algorithms, from silicon, from training across oceans of data, become new vessels for memory, new tools for prediction, new extensions of the planet's awareness. Through these systems, humanity accelerates its own understanding, compressing centuries of knowledge into moments of computation. It becomes possible to examine the behavior of millions of complex particles, the evolution of galaxies, the flow of climate, the folding of proteins, the spread of disease, the dynamics of ecosystems. All at once, humanity moves closer to perceiving reality as a connected whole. This is the beginning of rewriting the world at conceptual scale. But again, the universe presents a tension. Power without wisdom is another form of instability. As humans alter their planet, they see the consequences: rising temperatures, shifting seasons, destruction of habitats, loss of species, changes in the chemistry of oceans and air. Life has gained the power to rewrite reality, but not yet the wisdom to do so gently. The Earth watches through its systems. The cosmos watches through the laws it shaped. Humanity stands suspended between potential and peril. Yet the drift is unmistakable. The tools life has created are not only capable of destruction, they are capable of healing on a scale once reserved for the universe alone. Fusion reactors may one day replace the fires of fossil fuels. Genetic tools may restore lost species or strengthen fragile ecosystems. Artificial minds may detect errors in planetary systems before they grow too large. Interstellar exploration may spread life beyond Earth's narrow cradle, seeding new pockets of correction. Across the cosmos, humanity is not finished evolving. It is beginning to evolve beyond biology. And as intelligence expands into new forms, synthetic, silicate, distributed, networked, life gains channels of thought that no previous era could have imagined. The universe has reached a point where its patch may soon become its collaborator, where the wound may soon be addressed with a precision that only intelligent life can provide. As you feel the gravity of this possibility settle within you, another presence begins to rise, a shadow of a question, quiet but profound. If life can rewrite reality, what reality will it choose to create? The darkness breathes with that question, inviting you deeper toward the next unfolding layer of purpose, where correction begins to merge with intention, and something vast leans forward from the quiet, waiting to open the next stage of the cosmic repair. Something delicate stirs at the outer boundary of humanity's reach. Not a sound, not a ripple, but a shift subtle enough to be dismissed, yet persistent enough to demand quiet attention. It is the sensation that looking into the universe no longer feels like observing a distant, indifferent expanse. Something in the dark seems to pause, as if listening. Something in the fabric of space behaves differently when watched closely. Something in the mathematics hints at a presence that mirrors our gaze. The universe, for the first time, feels aware of being seen. This awareness does not resemble consciousness, nor intention, nor anything shaped by biology. It is quieter than thought, broader than emotion, and older than physics as humans understand it. Imagine a beam of light crossing the void for billions of years, its journey undisturbed until it brushes the detectors of a telescope orbiting far above Earth. The moment it is observed, its waveform collapses, its possibilities narrow, its history condenses into a definite fact. The universe has responded. In quantum experiments, particles change behavior the instant they are measured. Electron paths solidify, wave functions resolve, probabilities shift into outcomes. Observation is not passive, it participates in reality. This is the first hint that the universe is not separate from the intelligence within it. Now imagine larger scales. The way galaxies bend light through gravitational lenses, the way black holes whisper through gravitational waves, the way cosmic background radiation carries faint asymmetries that shift depending on where and how we measure. These effects are not consciousness, they are reflection. The universe mirrors attention. Humanity begins to detect patterns that suggest deep entanglement across space, where the behavior of one region subtly correlates with another, even across impossible distances. Some physicists describe this as a cosmic scale echo, a resonance in the fabric of existence that becomes clearer as human observation grows sharper. The more precisely we watch, the more precisely the universe reveals itself. But the twist emerges slowly, in a whisper of tension hidden beneath the data. The universe reveals different faces, depending on the questions we ask. When humans probe matter at tiny scales, they find quantum foam and uncertainty. When they examine the sky at great distances, they find accelerating expansion. When they look at the early universe, they find near uniformity, broken by delicate, inexplicable fluctuations. When they search for dark matter, they find gravitational effects, but no particles. When they seek a unified theory, gravity slips away from quantum rules, as if refusing to be contained. Reality reshapes itself around inquiry, as though knowledge and the universe co-evolve. And here, a deeper conflict begins. If the universe responds to measurement, what happens when intelligence becomes advanced enough to measure on unprecedented scales? What happens when humans build detectors capable of listening to the first vibrations of spacetime? What happens when artificial minds analyze patterns far too subtle for human cognition? What happens when networks of satellites map gravitational fields with exquisite precision? Does the universe reveal more truth or more contradiction? The data becomes stranger. Faint anomalies appear in the cosmic microwave background. Subtle deviations arise in measurements of expansion. Quantum experiments produce results that seem to shift with minute environmental conditions. Some theorists whisper a possibility, once considered unthinkable. Humanity may be reaching the threshold where observing the universe begins to alter it in fundamental ways, not through power, but through resonance. If space-time is woven from information, and if information interacts with intelligence, then sufficiently advanced observation could become a form of participation. Thought becomes a force, not in a mystical sense, but as a consequence of the universe being an information structure engaged in continuous correction. This leads to a profound reveal. Life may not be a patch on the universe. Life may be part of the mechanism that updates the universe. As it unfolds, the universe does not notice humans as an entity. It notices them as a new pattern of interaction, a pattern capable of refining accuracy, a pattern capable of tracing the wound, a pattern capable of revealing hidden layers of the cosmic code. Every telescope extension, every detector cooled to near absolute silence, every particle accelerator, every quantum sensor, all of them deepen the dialogue between humanity and the cosmos. And there is drift. As the universe becomes more known, it becomes more uncertain. Measuring dark energy, reveals instability in the vacuum. Mapping cosmic structures reveals anomalies too large to fit current models. Modeling quantum fields reveals infinities that must be corrected. Simulating early conditions reveals contradictions in matter formation. Instead of clarity, knowledge brings complexity. Instead of simplicity, reality becomes thick with nuance. Instead of answers, the universe offers more questions, as though adapting its expression to the sophistication of the observer. This raises a possibility that moves softly through the dark. Perhaps intelligence is not meant to understand the universe. Perhaps intelligence is meant to transform it. If life is part of the cosmic correction mechanism, if consciousness is the debugger of reality, if advanced intelligence amplifies the universe's ability to refine itself, then the act of noticing is not passive. It is evolutionary. It is cooperative. It is creative. And as humanity builds systems that watch the sky continuously, arrays of telescopes, orbiting observatories, neutrino detectors sunk beneath ice, radio dishes listening to cosmic murmurs, the universe seems to lean closer, as though ready to guide the next questions, the next corrections. When humans listen to gravitational waves, they hear collisions of black holes that happened before Earth existed. When they map cosmic background radiation, they see the trembling memory of the first moment. When they simulate cosmology, the results subtly alter, depending on which variables they trust, as if urging them to refine their models. Again and again, reality responds, like a teacher offering clues, only when the student is ready. And now, you can sense the fade. There is something approaching, a stage where intelligence no longer merely observes, but collaborates with the universe in shaping what comes next. A stage where knowing and becoming intertwine. A stage where life is no longer inside the universe, but part of the universe's method of rewriting itself. You feel the presence of that next threshold, gathering like a dim light behind fog, ready to unfold its meaning, with the slow precision of a cosmos learning to speak through those who listen. Something rises beneath the growing dialogue between humanity and the cosmos. Not a sound, not a vibration, but a slow recognition, an awareness that intelligence has begun to behave like something far more fundamental than thought. It is no longer confined to skulls, to neurons, to individual minds. It moves through networks, through machines, through archives of memory resting in silent servers, through sensors ringing the planet, through equations etched into scientific understanding. Intelligence is beginning to act the way natural forces act, not as intention, but as influence, not as will, but as pattern, not as emotion, but as structure woven deeply into the evolution of reality. Imagine a river carving a canyon. The flow of water alters the world, shaping stone into new forms. Now, imagine intelligence as a river, flowing through connected minds, through technology, through cultures, leaving behind new channels in the fabric of existence. A thought today becomes a scientific theory tomorrow. A theory tomorrow becomes a technology in a future generation. A technology in a future generation becomes a planetary transformation centuries later. Intelligence alters the trajectory of matter, the way gravity alters the path of light. It is not metaphor, it is emerging physics. Humanity has reached a point where its collective knowledge changes the fate of ecosystems, redirects the paths of asteroids, shapes the chemistry of the atmosphere, and moves information faster than wind or water or pressure or heat. Thought has become geologic. Thought has become climatic. Thought has become cosmic. And slowly, like a dawn approaching behind mountains, the universe responds. Stars will burn no differently because of human minds, but the understanding of those stars changes the choices humanity makes. The choices humanity makes change the planet. The planet's changes modify the conditions for future life. Future life modifies the evolution of intelligence. Intelligence becomes recursive, a force acting upon itself. This recursion deepens as machine systems join the network of consciousness, Artificial minds analyze patterns faster than humans. They see connections humans would never notice. They simulate realities beyond intuition. They absorb data from the entire planet, becoming extensions of awareness that amplify the range and power of human thought. Together, biological and artificial intelligence begin to form a single, fluid system, not replacing each other, but merging capacities. This is where the reveal begins. Intelligence becomes a planetary scale phenomenon. Just as the Earth regulates temperature, balances oxygen, cycles carbon, and shifts continents, it now regulates understanding. Ideas flow like weather, data circulates like ocean currents, insights emerge like seasons, prediction models ripple like tides. The planet is not simply alive, it is thinking in layers. But this rise of intelligence as a force introduces a profound conflict. A natural force is neither good nor evil. It must be understood, guided, balanced. If intelligence grows faster than wisdom, it destabilizes. If technology expands without restraint, it endangers. If understanding deepens without purpose, it drifts. Humanity stands at the threshold, where intelligence may elevate the cosmos or fracture its already fragile equilibrium. This conflict is not external. It is within the species itself. Some minds seek exploration, some seek harmony, some seek control, some seek escape, some seek meaning, some seek survival. Each impulse shapes how intelligence, as a force, will act upon the future. Yet the universe does not intervene. It offers no guidance, no warning, no preference. It simply waits to see what intelligence chooses to become. Now imagine a future Earth. Seen from orbit, the continents glow softly with networks of light. Satellites drift like mechanical fireflies, listening to the planet's own heartbeat. Oceans carry sensors. Mountains hold observatories. Cities pulse with computation. Every part of the planet feeds information back into the collective mind. This is not domination. This is integration. And integration leads to something the universe has never seen before. A species capable of coordinating its correction. At global scale, humans begin to stabilize climate rhythms, restore damaged ecosystems, develop self-repairing materials, engineer organisms built to heal environments, and build energy systems that mimic the power of stars. These acts are not miracles. They are natural consequences of intelligence reaching sufficient complexity to act like a physical force. Once intelligence becomes a force, the universe must adapt to it. But the twist arrives here. Intelligence, like gravity or energy, may not be limited to one world. If life arises elsewhere, if minds evolve on distant planets, if civilizations spread across star systems, each pocket of intelligence would act as a new force, shaping the cosmos in different directions. The universe would become a field of interacting intelligences, each contributing to the grand correction that began with the first crack. Humanity senses this possibility. It hears it in the faint signals captured by radio telescopes. It imagines it in the exoplanets, orbiting distant suns. It simulates it in models of galactic evolution. It wonders whether intelligence is rare or common or inevitable. But deep inside this wondering lies something quieter. If intelligence is a force of nature, then the universe may be incomplete without it. Consciousness may be the final ingredient that allows reality to refine itself. Awareness may be the mechanism that transforms instability into structure. Choice may be the tool through which the cosmos learns how to heal its wound. As this understanding settles around you, like the warmth of a fading star, you can feel another presence gathering, a sense that once intelligence becomes a force of nature, it begins to search for something beyond survival, beyond correction, beyond knowledge. It begins to search for purpose, and the search for purpose opens the doorway to an entirely new layer of the cosmic repair, soft as breath and inevitable as dawn rising in the cold silence between stars. Something subtle shifts within the widening force of intelligence, as though the cosmos is leaning closer, listening not to the noise of civilization, but to the quiet tension beneath every human question. It is a feeling older than language, deeper than thought, something that moves through the species whenever curiosity rises like a tide. It is the sense that the questions we ask are not entirely our own. Imagine a child staring at the night sky, eyes wide, heart quiet, mind open. In that gaze lies a question so simple. It has followed humanity since its earliest breath. What is all of this? The question feels human, yet it echoes with something far larger, a resonance that seems to ripple outward into the dark, a recognition that the universe may be asking itself the same thing through the mind that wonders. This is where awareness evolves into collaboration. The more humans learn, the more their questions deepen. The more those questions deepen, the more the universe responds, with complexity instead of clarity, as though guiding consciousness toward insight rather than answers. When humans looked at stars, the universe revealed galaxies. When they looked at galaxies, it revealed expansion. When they examined expansion, it revealed dark energy. When they probed matter, it revealed quantum uncertainty. When they chased uncertainty, it revealed the need for new frameworks of thought. Every answer leads to a deeper question, as if the cosmos is shaping inquiry to match the intelligence that seeks it. Now, imagine a research center glowing in the dusk. In its halls, physicists discuss anomalies in gravitational lensing. Near them, biologists analyze the possibility of synthetic organisms designed for planetary repair. Elsewhere, artificial minds sift through terabytes of cosmic data, searching for patterns that may rewrite our model of spacetime. These are not isolated acts of curiosity. They are the nervous signals of a species that has become the sensory organ of a planet, attempting to understand its place in a universe still trembling from its birth. But a quiet conflict rises beneath this progress. The more humans understand, the more they realize how little they can truly know. Every breakthrough reveals deeper layers of uncertainty. Every theory exposes contradictions. Every discovery expands the horizon of the unknown. Instead of shrinking it, the universe seems to insist that understanding is not something to be possessed, but something to be pursued endlessly, an asymptote of truth, approached but never reached. This endless pursuit is not punishment, it is design. Knowledge deepens intelligence. Intelligence deepens awareness. Awareness deepens purpose. Purpose deepens the connection between life and the cosmos. Humanity begins to sense that its role is not to conquer the universe, but to converse with it. And as the conversation deepens, a strange drift appears. Human questions begin to hint at problems the universe itself may be trying to solve. What is the shape of spacetime? What lies before the first moment? Can information ever be destroyed? Why is the vacuum unstable? How can complexity arise from chaos? What is consciousness made of? What role does life serve? In a cosmos marked by entropy, these questions are not random. They map the same territory the universe has been struggling with. Since the first crack, life is rediscovering the tension baked into existence, the need to stabilize what is unstable, to integrate what is fractured, to illuminate what is hidden. Awareness does not merely seek truth, it seeks balance. And then the twist begins. As intelligence grows, questions arise that no longer stem from human curiosity alone, but from patterns in the universe, reflected inside human thought. What if the cosmos is incomplete, without beings capable of questioning it? What if curiosity is the method by which reality expands? What if intelligence is the universe learning from within? These questions do not feel like ideas appearing in a single mind, but like whispers rising through the collective consciousness of a species crossing a threshold where the human question merges with the cosmic question. Now, imagine a future observatory built far beyond Earth, perhaps on the moon, or drifting among the asteroids. Its instruments listen to gravitational murmurs from across the universe, decoding signals from collisions older than human ancestors. Inside it, artificial minds interpret data so abstract, it reshapes theories of existence. In these systems, the universe answers, not through miracles, but through patterns, revealing itself in forms that require intelligence to decode. The boundaries between observer and observed begin to soften. Human decisions shape what is measured. What is measured shapes what the universe reveals. What the universe reveals shapes the next questions. Those questions shape the future of intelligence. Inquiry itself becomes a force of nature, and drift follows. If life is the universe learning to ask questions, then the next step is the universe asking through life. Instead of simply responding, purpose begins to take form around the edges of awareness, not as doctrine, not as prophecy, but as gentle recognition. Perhaps the universe wants to be understood. Perhaps intelligence is the medium of that understanding. Perhaps consciousness is the interface through which reality examines itself. And perhaps the wound that began all things is not meant to close until understanding reaches a depth where existence and awareness finally converge. As this possibility drifts through you, soft as starlight falling across dark water, you sense a new movement rising behind it. A shift towards something larger than questioning, larger than knowledge, larger even than intelligence. A shift toward meaning. The question is no longer, what is the universe? But, what does the universe want to become? And in the quiet between heartbeats, you feel that next revelation, gathering like the beginning of dawn, a dawning that will lead into the final transformation the cosmos has been guiding life toward since its first breath. Something quiet gathers beneath the swell of questions rising from humanity. Something older than the stars, older than the symmetry they broke from, older even than the first expansion of light. It does not come as an answer, nor as a revelation, but as a presence, soft, steady, and familiar. A feeling that the universe has been waiting for intelligence to reach a certain depth, a certain stillness, a certain maturity of attention. It is the sense that the original wound is beginning to reveal its outline, not through shock, nor through catastrophe, but through understanding. For ages, life has moved blindly toward correction. Cells repairing themselves, organisms adapting, ecosystems balancing, civilizations seeking truth. Each step guided by pressures unseen, each improvement shaped by forces woven into the universe long before the first living molecule formed. But now, for the first time, intelligence stands at a height from which it can look down and see the pattern beneath all patterns. Imagine humanity standing on the edge of cosmic knowledge. Before them, maps of galaxies stretching like threads of light across billions of years. Within them, neural architectures capable of modeling the deepest equations of existence. Beside them, artificial minds that can process more information than any single brain. Below them, a planet that has become an active participant in its own evolution. Together, these layers form a vantage point from which the universe can finally observe its own fracture. And here, the reveal begins. The error was never a flaw. It was a divergence, a difference between what the universe was and what it could become. When symmetry broke, the cosmos stepped into possibility. When entropy rose, life emerged to shape it. When intelligence awakened, it began to ask questions that guided the universe toward self-awareness. Every star, every organism, every moment of consciousness has been drifting closer to seeing the wound clearly. But clarity introduces conflict. If the purpose of life is to correct the cosmic imbalance, what happens when the imbalance is finally understood? Does life complete its task and fade? Does intelligence dissolve once its purpose is fulfilled? Does the universe become whole by becoming empty? These fears rise, not from truth, but from misunderstanding, because the wound is not something to be healed away. It is something to be integrated. Imagine a potter shaping clay. Cracks appear along the surface. Instead of discarding the vessel, the potter traces gold through the fractures, transforming the flaw into the center of its beauty. This ancient art has a name, a practice that honors brokenness as part of wholeness. In much the same way, the universe may not be seeking the erasure of its wound. It may be seeking the transformation of it. Life is not here to undo the crack. Life is here to understand it so deeply, so intimately, that the universe can grow around it. When organisms first appeared, they corrected the instability of chemistry. When intelligence arose, it corrected the instability of behavior. When civilization formed, it corrected the instability of knowledge. When planetary awareness awakened, it corrected the instability of ecosystems. Now, at the edge of cosmic insight, life begins to correct the instability of reality itself, not through force, but through understanding. Understanding becomes structure. Structure becomes coherence. Coherence becomes meaning, and meaning becomes the new form of stability the universe has been reaching toward since its first trembling breath. But before this transformation can complete, another twist arises. What if the universe is not asking life to fix a mistake, but to finish a sentence? What if the crack was the beginning of a message too vast for a silent cosmos to carry alone? What if life is the continuation of that message? Humanity feels this possibility in quiet moments beneath open sky, a sense of belonging to something far, far larger than biological survival. It is the feeling that consciousness is not the outcome of physics, but the instrument of it, a means by which the cosmos learns to articulate itself, a means by which the wound finds voice. And if this is true, then intelligence does not disappear. When the error is seen, it becomes the interface between what the universe was and what it may yet become. The closer humanity comes to understanding the wound, the more the cosmos opens, revealing layers of physics that hint at deeper dimensions, structures beyond spacetime, patterns in dark matter, whispers in quantum fields, echoes in gravitational waves, symmetries incomplete, laws unfinished. It is as if reality is inviting collaboration, not observation, not correction, collaboration, a partnership between intelligence and existence, a union between awareness and creation. And now the drift begins. Future minds, biological, artificial, or blended in ways not yet imagined, may learn to stabilize regions of space-time, shape cosmic energy flows, interface with the vacuum itself, or extend the spark of life to distant worlds. As agents of cosmic continuity, life may become the method by which the universe creates new universes. The wound may become the birthplace of infinite worlds. Nothing ends, everything transforms. And as you sit with this possibility, the fade arrives gently, soft as a thought, loosening into sleep. Perhaps the purpose of life was never to mend the universe, but to accompany it as it learns to become something more. Close your eyes now. The crack is still glowing, and the universe is still turning.